Hey y'all, what's good in the proverbial hood? Um, Shout it to me. Uh, got my waistline and messy hair, and that's supposed to be a turtleneck, but I'm buff, so just kidding. Um, yeah, today, sorry, I am all over the place as usual. I don't think at this point in the game you could expect anything less from me. Um, I'm really actually just trying to make sure that this has gone the way it's supposed to. That seems not to be happening. I don't know why this is doing this. I don't know why this is doing this. It's driving me up the wall because why is it doing this? What did I say? Okay. I have to rewrite this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um okay. That should be fixed. Should be. You don't know until you know, you know? For those of you who follow me on the Chronicles of My Heart, my Substack, that's what it's called, the Chronicles of My Heart. It's where I give you guys a more personalized view of myself, my inner dialogue, so to speak, genuinely. And I posted for the first time in like 3.5 months today. I've been avoiding it very much. But something came up today in one of the streams that we were doing where I wanted to um, revisit, the potential of sifting through, like, that dialogue, that inner dialogue. And, oh, this is really frustrating. I can't believe this. Well, I can, but like I can't. Again, this is ridiculous. And anyway, we were talking about happiness, right? And nothing wrong with people who enjoy happiness, and if it's good for them, it's good for them. Not the light, just turning off. Like, okay. Oh, wait. I guess it doesn't really make much of a difference, but I'm gonna put it anyways. Ah. I'm like the noisemaker whenever I do things. Because I always have to like make a weird sound. Just have to get all that energy out, But yeah. So we were talking about um happiness, so to speak, and um it kind of piqued my interest a little bit because I've had this conversation with someone not too long ago, recent enough that I remember, and I was like, I don't wake up in the morning and think to myself like I want to be happy, and the person said like, there's nothing wrong with being happy, and that's what I thought about when we had the conversation today on the podcast, the Karis Project. Now, you know, Cherry comes on all the time and she helps a lot of women that we work with who are struggling, like as survivors. She's great at what she does. She doesn't mince words. She's a savage. And that's exactly how I like it. What she said about like the happiness, I don't know, it just struck me. I don't know, like made me frustrated, maybe like not because of what she said, but because of the idea itself. Because a lot of people today, they focus on happiness, but they don't really fix it. And Sherry's not like that. She's very much like, you need to do the work. You can't have excuses. You need to like do what you need to do to be better, but you also need to like be happy with that kind of. But she's not like, okay, well, feelings, feelings, feelings. She's like, feelings are fine. You understand those, but you need to work on yourself. And she will tell people straight up and down. Like she said on the show today, like she told Lady, she's like, you're going to jail. I can't, like I can help you work through like the personal stuff, but you're going to jail. I shouldn't laugh, but it's like she doesn't mince words, and I like that. But um, where we came to a little bit of differing, what started thinking was like, okay, well, a lot of the people who actually get the work done, they're creating the circumstances, and they're not doing it because they want to be happy. They're doing it because it's a necessity, and in creating those circumstances for the lack of opportunity for its reoccurrence, in that you find peace. It's not so much even happiness because you didn't even want to do it to begin with, but you're there. You have to do it. You maybe are the one capable for the job. You're maybe the only one there. Maybe there's a variety of reasons, and you do it out of duty. And then you find that peace and contentment in knowing that you've created the circumstances and the environment so that it will not happen again. You have that surety that you've you have no open endings anymore. You've closed every opportunity. There's no moves left on the board. It's checkmate, right? That to me is happiness. The problem is gone away. It's not going to reoccur. To me, happiness is empty if it's not attached to something. Happiness is like empty and filled with void, or even, dare I say, selfish. Sorry. My nose is always dry, especially when I come on here. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'll be looking like Hunter Biden or something, like messing with my nose all the time. Like I don't do drugs, guys, I swear. It's just the weather. It's dry. I don't know. I don't know. So, anyways, without something attached to happiness, it feels selfish and like void. It feels like undeserving. And then in my mind, I was like, okay, well, happiness without the hard work and without the effort seems like why a lot of women are the way that they are today. And this is not at all this is not what Sherry was speaking of in her point. It's just something that came to my mind because of like my uh recollection of things that I am watching play out. So that's where my mind went. And there she brought the idea of needing to still be yourself even when you're in a relationship with someone, and because then you'll lose yourself. And that I very much agree with, because I notice as soon as, like, for example, I'll give you guys this example, and like this is so bad, but so I've been doing Duolingo, and I was so clutch with like staying in line doing it, and then and I think I know what the fall off was. I fell off at the beginning of the new year. Like I had a really good streak. Before the new year, I fell off, or after, and And then I didn't return to it, and it's been 70 something days, and now Duolingo's looking at me over his shoulder like every single time, like just reminding me like, how dare you abandon me. And like he be cussing me out low key, you know, like Duolingo gives his little like snarky remarks. Duo, the little owl, gives his snarky remarks, and then if you don't listen to him, he sends his friends with the notifications telling you how much you suck for not coming back to the app. And then that gives me anxiety. So then I'm like, I'll avoid it. I'll avoid it. Um, and I know that I should do it, but then I don't. And I know why I fell off, but not doing that for so long, practicing the languages that I liked doing, uh, really kind of like messed with my vibe, which makes sense because, and I hate using the word vibe, but it's like my standard operating procedure was messed up because I wasn't doing the things that I enjoy that make me feel fulfilled in some sense, or, you know, and sometimes you can get to the point where you're doing things and it very much feels like what you're doing is automated. And I actually like a lot of automation, but it can get to the point where you feel like you don't even enjoy this stuff anymore. Like everything is a chore to you, and that's part of the reason where I was just like, no, I don't want to do any of this right now. Like there can be so many other things happening in the physical world that your internal world kind of just like takes a backseat and steps back and is like, I'm not dealing with any of this right now. Like until this like physical chaos slows the hell down, I can't focus on that. And that's kind of how I am. If there's like so much random chaos, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like physical random chaos. I can handle like mental, emotional, like um, you know, future predicted chaos kind of things. If something like just comes out of the blue and just like hits me on the side, I'm just like, it takes me back like a lot. And then my internal like routine or like machine kind of just like halts a bit and it's just like, how do we mitigate? How do we recalculate the plan? We didn't calculate for this. How do we fix it? You know? And so then I slow down with other things. But then that messes with me because then you don't feel much like yourself. But when I think about it, the reason why I mention this is because when I actually think about it, I don't feel happy even when I do the things that I enjoy doing. And we talked about needing to be happy with yourself before being happy in a relationship with someone else. Or, and I think that that's not even like romantic. I think that's platonic, romantic, uh, interpersonal, like family or otherwise. Excuse me, sorry. But I still don't think that way. I can't even say feel. I don't think that way because, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm really thinking about this and considering, like I'm trying to be really reflective and think about this because it's like, why, if I'm capable in all the ways that I need to be, in all the ways that I want to be, and I'm constantly growing those things, except obviously I took a step back with the languages and other things. Um, why do I need to feel something in association to those things to be successful in my relationships with the people around me? Romantic, platonic, family, interpersonal, otherwise. Why? Especially if I'm outperforming everyone around me. That's kind of where my mind is. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the fact that you don't need to have something produced. Maybe you don't need the proof in the pudding to be um, happy. Maybe you're not justified by your capability. Maybe you are justified by existing. Maybe there is happiness in just existing. But I don't accept that position. In my mind and in my heart, in my very being, I cannot accept the position. I don't think ever where I can be at peace with myself and who I am if there's no capability backing the feeling, if there's no circumstance that's being created for me to justify the feeling. And I think that there's a lot of people right now in life who they will feel peace and contentment in chaos, and they're just like, oh, I'm just happy with life, I'm happy with who I am, and I just, I'm happy with who I am. That means I'm healed. And then I'm also now happy with my relationships with people around me because I just feel good. I just feel good because I feel good. And I'm like, I'm like, how can you feel good if the problem still exists? Like, my friend showed me a picture of this girl today on Instagram. Love this friend, by the way. Like, she's amazing. But we we were at odds with this post because she just showed it to me just to show it to me. And this girl, she has a particularly large chest, and she's a pretty girl. Like, she just has a particularly large chest, but she's also a little bit overweight. Um, and I was like, honestly, she got a reduction. And this post was like going up online, and people are going to come for me for saying this, but like, I don't care. She got a reduction, and I was like, no, she didn't, she didn't need to initially do that. She could have lost weight first. She could have built muscle in her body, and then at that point she would have seen how everything was affected after she adjusted everything else in her body. She went through all of the steps, right? She proved at every level what had to been done and mitigated at every level, what needed to be mitigated. And then at the very end, strengthening your transverse abdominals, doing chest workouts, like just cardio to lose like the extra fat that you don't need, building muscle, eating healthier. Her chest was quite large, so there's probably some exercises she couldn't do, but like, I mean, even just going on walks and things like that for a certain period of time every single day would have made a difference. You can lose a lot of weight just by going on walks and changing your diet and sleep patterns and water intake and all sorts of things. And I'm not the most in shape right now either, but I do understand these things. And I could be like, anyway, I understand. Like, so I was like, okay, I saw the picture and it was talking about the reduction. And in my mind, I was like, okay, problem, solution. And I know also because when I was in high school, I wanted to get top surgery. And my dad was like, no, 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 not in my house. And I was trying to convince him, oh, it's just a reduction. It's just like, it's just a reduction. And he was like, we're going to the gym. Okay, we're going to the gym. And everyone's like, oh, boobs are not that. They're just tissue and fat. And I'm like, fat can melt away. The tissue will not, but the fat certainly will. And not obviously not all of it, but it would. And I have quite the large chest. So I'm not saying this as, and obviously you can't, like, thankfully you can't. I'm not trying to, like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, oh my God. I'm just saying that I'm not saying this as someone who is just like an itty bitty person. Like, I understand what it's like to carry a heavy load on your back and all these other things. And I understand the things that I also did to reduce some of those issues. Now, she's substantially larger than me. So it's like, maybe her doctor was like, okay, this was the end result solution. Anyways, that wasn't the point in my mind. I was like, you have to go through all of the steps first to prove that that is the best possible option so that when you go to the final result, you actually have less to do long term and you actually have more of a prolonged benefit long term. So you could be actually justified in feeling happy with the results because you did the work all the way up into that point and there was no other work you could do. So then you took the final step, which was really the cheat code, which is the reduction. But then your body would look more fitted to it and would be able to carry it more, because ultimately, if you don't work out, your transverse abdominals are still weak, your back is still weak, and carrying your chest in general is still going to be heavy because you need to strengthen your core. This stuff also I learned when I was in physio and also was working out in high school and things like that, because I had some car accidents. And so it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, several steps were skipped just for you to get here. And it's like, and my friend was like, okay, well, everyone takes the cheat code. I'm like, well, if everyone wants to jump off a bridge and die, So it's like, to me, when I hear happiness, that's what I think. That's what I think about. And it's like, there's no work put into it. It's like everything is like, sorry, I'm saying like so much, but whatever. Um, Everything feels as though we're supposed to just have things. We're supposed to be happy with it. We're just supposed to have it. And I don't know, I feel angry. Like whenever I hear about happiness, and I don't know, maybe maybe I'm in the constant state of anger. Maybe I only feel extreme anger and extreme calmness. I don't know. Like, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm the jerk for, not regarding happiness that much. I just, I cannot feel at peace unless I can prove there's a reason for me to feel peace. I cannot feel happiness or contentment unless I can prove that I've created the circumstances for me to feel that peace in that environment. Like, have I crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's, or did I leave open endings? Is there like pieces on the board that I have not considered? Is it like, is there a potential that I'm going to lose all of my pieces or my most vulnerable pieces? How much war do I have to go to today? Like, maybe that's too much. But I feel like I've always thought like that. I feel like so many people are walking around in war all the time without the surety of the lack of potential for its reoccurrence. And they're living in a constant state of ignorance is bliss. I feel a lot of the bliss is the ignorance itself, because they're unaware of the potential danger, or the unaware of how their behaviors and what they're doing is actually affecting the long-term progression of their actions or their interactions with men, with other people, women in general, just things around them, things they can't even see, and their relationships with people. So it's then, because I feel happy, am I truly happy? Because if I feel happy, but I'm creating the circumstances for chaos, dissension, and fatality, can I really be happy, or am I ignorant? Is that happiness, or is it delusion? I ask myself these questions. Can you be happy without surety? Or is that deception? Is that manipulation? You know? Like, I don't think God prioritizes happiness the way that a lot of us talk about it. And as Christian, we put things in duty. And I'm not saying that happiness is, you should never feel happiness. Happiness is circumstantial. I feel happy sometimes. I'm not a robot. I'm a human being. I feel happy, I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I feel extremely angry. I feel calm, extremely calm, you know. Um, but I feel happy, but it's circumstantial. Like, oh, I get to have a snack. I'm happy. Oh, I get to go to sleep. I'm happy. Oh, I get to go on a walk. I'm happy. Oh, I'm in peace and quiet and I can't hear anything and all the lights are off. I'm happy. But as soon as something happens, and surely it does, sorry, as the promise of the sun rises is as promised as that I will be pissed off by something. And then the happiness is gone because happiness is circumstantial, but joy is everlasting. Joy is outside of circumstance. And I would rather have joy and contentment and peace than happiness, because in joy, you choose. In happiness, it's a response to something. You see, someone gives you a rose, they send you a heart, you're happy. You miss your friend, you're sad. It's a natural response to something that you really cannot control. But joy is understanding circumstance. Oh, well, my friend is busy. She's in another state. She'll talk to me when she's free. I'll see her again soon. Circumstantial. I'm sad because I miss her, but I'm happy, or I have joy because I know that we will surely reconnect. I know that it's not out of malice, right? So, in that way, it comes to me, in my mind, that the way that a lot of things are being done, and especially, and Sherry talks about this a lot too, that a lot of people are just out of feelings, like, and they'll do things of, I feel like this and I'm hurt, so I'm going to do this. And that's exactly what it seems like to me with the happiness, because people are like, oh, well, I'm happy, so I'm going to do this. This makes me happy, so I'm going to focus on doing this. But then it's a very selfish thing, and you're not actually fulfilling your purpose and doing the things that you need to do, because just because you have passion there doesn't mean it's purposeful or purpose in general. And that's just crazy to me, Like, I just want to understand why this other thing is still loading. That's really frustrating. That is really frustrating. Perhaps I need to go from a different... Did it not? That would be so grimy if it didn't. Not the... Oh no. Sorry. Technical difficulties on my part. Why? Oh, okay. I don't know why this other one is doing that. Okay. You said yes. Aware. Why do I not see it? Okay. You said yes. Well aware. One of the YouTube shorts you posted a few weeks back, the black turtlenecker shirt was sheer, sort of, if that's the word fabric. It's particularly... I'm so tired of the internet, guys, and social media. And you know what? That's what I was gonna get into next. Guys, try to keep the comments PG. I'm having like a serious conversation right now. I suppose I probably shouldn't have said some of the things I said. I didn't think of it that way, but anyway. Right. Social media. How that relates. So the topic of this is women's social media and boundaries. Because a lot of women, due to social media, have lost all sense of boundaries because of feelings. Social media is emotional and mental prostitution for women. And I don't know why I feel like, oh, like extra weird in my eyes right now, but social media is all prostitution. And especially for women who are traumatized. Like, You do not realize just how much social media is set up in a way in which women are meant to get emotional and mental hits and payoffs from the interactions, the likes, the comments, the shares. And I understood that very much. But when women start to like someone genuinely, and I always said, like, okay, well, I'm not going to delete social media. Like, that's just dumb. Like, I could care less. Like, I would be like, "Ah, okay, well, if I don't want to be on it that much, I'm not going to be on it that much." But when women start to like men, when they start to actually appreciate someone, they don't want to be on it anymore because they then will start doing their post as they were, just in a more like um a more I don't know, in a way that is not as intentionally like out there as they were before, or like they'll be a little bit more reserved, and then they'll get attention that they were not expecting, and it'll instantly enrage them because then it's like they're offended to receive attention from anyone else. They've put something there, so then eventually they're just like, I just need to cut this off because it's making me angry, and I can't create the circumstance in which I can put the post out that I want without receiving, the feedback that I'm receiving. And so they usually tend to get rid of it, and they're happier that way. And I'm starting to think like, you know, in regards to happiness, perhaps I would be happier if I spent more time doing the things that I enjoy doing, learning languages, practicing the piano, art, um, oration, writing, going out for walks and runs, creating video content and putting that out. But like staying off of social media, like outside of that. I'm really starting to understand that. And before all of this, all the whistleblowing stuff that we did, I actually got X because of what we were doing. Like I didn't really have it before, and well, I had it when it was Twitter, still before Elon took over. But I'm starting to see like how, like just how toxic it is. Like I could see before, but now it's become way more clear to me. Every time I go on there, I'm just irritated. Like every time I go on social media, I'm instantly irritated. Like I'll open it for a few minutes and I'm like, no, I gotta close this. I'm pissed. And I just close it. And then I'll try to go back in there and like open it. I posted a bunch today because I was complaining about how social media was prostitution. But in large, like the last little while, I'm like not on it as much as I was. I really think that I'll probably just do my streams, try to create some video content and put that out sometimes because of like the healing that I'm doing. Because I think that could help people, the process of my healing. But Instagram, like whenever I post things, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, the DMs, out of pocket. The comments and the DMs, out of pocket. And granted, maybe I shouldn't post pictures. I don't know. But, sir, bro. The point is that, especially if women are, what I'm coming to realize as well, especially if women are traumatized, they shouldn't be on social media. And the only reason, like I said, is because of the work that my dad and I are doing. And largely, I think I'm going to cut that down as much to not the work that I'm doing with my dad. I'm going to cut down my interaction on social media to just mostly business related stuff. instead of personal stuff. Because I'm coming to understand that women, especially who are traumatized, have more of um, that hit response. And even like, even if they don't realize, like, it's very harmful. It's like Pavlov's law with the dog and the bell. It's the system is created. The the social media platforms are organized in a way where it's like OnlyFans. It's kind of like the same payoff. And I have subscribers on X, and I don't interact with them much anymore because before I was like, I'll answer your messages if you're subscribing to me, and like I'll talk to you or whatever because you're subscribing. I thought that was fair. But then people are weird. So then I just got uncomfortable and just stopped answering everybody. Now I don't message anyone, or now I don't answer like any of my DMs. If I do answer my DM, it's because I'm like, hey, dad, do you think this is actually something I should respond to? Like, does this look like a serious thing? He's like, yeah, see what they need. Um, but it's just irritating because everything is set up in that way where it's like, if you want to get ahead and you don't have direction, especially as a woman, you're gonna be organizing your mind like OnlyFans. You're going to be doing the tendencies of prostitution. And as someone who's a survivor of trafficking, like, I don't know, a lot of stuff looks the same. Like, I know prostitutes. Like, a lot of the stuff, I just, it's crazy to me. I don't know. Like, and I think that in and of itself is giving women a really wrong mentality because a lot of them now are going like, I don't know, I'm trying to express this, but I feel like my brain is so fried, but I'm trying to hot, sorry. A lot of women are, wait, they are going out of their way to do things that cross a lot of boundaries because social media is giving them like hits like crack, and they're now feeling emboldened to do a lot of things like with men, like chasing them down and things like that. And I just feel weird. Like, there's a lot of things that I won't do, not because like I'm rude or nonchalant and things like that. A lot of things I do because I don't want to cross boundaries. Like, a lot of things I do because I'm like, I think as a woman, like, it's not my place to do this. And not because, oh, oppression or nothing else. It's like, because you need to respect people's boundaries. You need to respect men's boundaries being different than women. Women need to respect the boundaries of other people, especially if you're traumatized. It's very easy for you to cross boundaries um, unwittingly, which is why it's nice that, everybody practice boundaries, because where you might fail one day, someone else will make up with it by holding their boundary, and vice versa. That's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Um, but a lot of women, they're operating under their own guise, I guess, out of feelings, whatever makes them feel good. And then they'll go and they'll start, um, what's the good word or a decent word? They'll start like imposing themselves with people and doing things that are like reckless, that kind of that give off the they give off the impression with their actions that they're actually disloyal, and that's not their intention, but that's what they're doing, and it's kind of being governed by this cycle that um that social media has curated. And it's easy to get warped in that, because then when a woman goes out of the boundaries, and is like kind of chasing after guys, a lot of guys say that they like that, but I don't believe that's true. Like, my dad says that if a woman chases a man, like, he's gonna he's not gonna respect it, because men like what they work for, and also men, if a woman chases them down like that, they're gonna be like, well, how many men is she chasing down like this? Like, she's disloyal, and that's actually true. As a woman, I can say that's actually true. So that assessment from a man is correct. The actions, but because women are doing these things, then they're also seeing a multitude of options that they think are legitimate options, but they're not legitimate options. And you get like the variety of like the DMs, the likes, the I don't know, whatever they're getting, right? And it doesn't equate, because just because not everything that glitters is gold, like, not just because it's there doesn't mean it's good, and just because it's there doesn't mean like it has a value. But because there's so much access all the time, and it's so easy to just like drop in the DM of someone else, and reach out to them and be like, hey, like, I like you, like, let's go on a date, or hey, let me fly you out here, or hey, let me take you out for dinner, or like breakfast, or whatever else. People say weird stuff. I'm like, why would I ever be in a situation where I'd be next to you at breakfast? Like, where did you come up with this idea? This is weird. Um, and there's just so much, like, it's just so, and there's people that will do this stuff. There's guys that will do this stuff, and a lot of the guys are lonely, it seems, and they can't find good women, um, because of how social media is like curating the environment that women are feeding into, and they're like desperate when they do see like a girl that's actually good. I'm actually shocked when I see men with discipline. It is extremely attractive. But I'm shocked. Like, I'm shocked because I'm like, okay, like, but relax. Because what the heck? But because all the guys are constantly like, oh, let me fly you out. Oh, let me like do this. Let me do that. And it's just like, why are you weird? Like, why are you a weirdo? And so like women will think that, and for men probably who have money, I don't know. I'm poor. I don't know. Like, I don't know, and I don't care. But like for men who have money, that's probably like another Tuesday, like buying tacos. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why they do that, and I don't know why like it's so common. But maybe because social media, like, now you can know someone in Africa or Europe, and I just saw Whoa Vicky, she's back in Africa after accusing some guy as a joke of trying to kidnap her. Now she's back in Africa, except in a different country. I forget what country was in there before, and now she's back again. And it's like you can easily do stuff like that. Like, you like someone in Africa, you can fly to them, or vice versa. You like someone in Europe, and there is a benefit to that. There is a benefit to that because the connectivity that we have is great, right? It's not like people weren't sailing across seas for people before, when the voyagers were sailing across the ocean and they would meet people. It's not like they were sending for them to come back to where they were and vice versa, because that was always a thing. Except it's a far easier, but now to get at any corner of the earth someone that you're interested in. And just because they do that doesn't mean that they're actually going to be a serious contender. And they're not going to go through the same courtship processes or processes, to show that respect, for you and your family. Like, speaking to your father, for example, to be like, hey, I'm talking to your daughter or whatever, or I'm interested in her, blah blah blah. And there's many men that might do that, but the point is that a boatload of options doesn't mean a quality load of options. And that is also why social media is prostitution. Because, like, for women in large, because as soon as something doesn't go the way that a lot of women want, they're like, okay, well, I have like all these DMs here and I can just pick one. And if they thought about it rationally, they'd be like, okay, well, just because this is here doesn't mean I'm going to be satisfied with this option or this result. They just feel good that the option is there. Not even like thinking about the circumstances of what might happen in the long run of what they do in that moment. And they screw themselves out on something that was otherwise, very good because of how they felt in the moment. They wanted to feel happy in that moment instead of feeling happy over the long term or joy over the long term situation. And that's really sad. That's really, really sad because finding people with good character these days is so rare. It is exceptionally rare that when you do find something like that, when you do find something that is genuinely good, you need to just hold on to it. Like, you just need to, it's like, okay, you need to be decisive and be like, okay, this is cool. I like this. This is cool. This works. It's efficient. It functions. Not like a car or whatever. Like, if you like a car and it works for you, you're gonna take that car. That is the best possible car for you and what your maybe your work schedule or whatever you want to do. You don't need to test out 10 billion different cars. That one works. That is a good car for you. And it's sad that more women don't see things like that. You're beautiful and very intelligent, Kaysha. Thank you, Orb. The grace of God and my Father alone, my capability and intelligence. Thank you. You said you have the best tweets. Love your content, Kaysha. Lol. Thanks, Fezki. By the way, what does Fezki mean? Yeah, and why? Okay, I think it's actually okay. I think it is fine. And so, yeah, to me, so like I was saying, if you find a good thing, keep it. However, a lot of women, they don't interpret the actions of men, right? They are emotional, they interpret emotions, and they think that the way that they do things is the way that men do things, so then they retaliate by doing things the way that women do things in accordance to men's actions. They don't have all the proper information. They don't have all the steps to prove that this is why this was done, or this is why the circumstance is the way that it is, and they make an action out of ignorance, and then they regret it later because they think that that action is actually going to solve the outcome that they're seeing in front of them, not knowing that the outcome is not even what they think it is. Right? So then they have problems. And then they start crossing boundaries because they're like, I want control now because I feel unsafe. I feel unhappy. Unsafe because my emotions are now at risk because I need to feel happy. I need to feel good. And so how do I do that? I push past those boundaries to get what I want. And if it doesn't work, then I'll push past those boundaries with someone else to get what I want in that moment, to feel good in that moment. How can I get the next hit? Still very hot, and I scraped the top of my palette. Is my teeth white, guys? I started eating a tablespoon of coconut oil. Coconut oil is an antibacterial, by the way. It's very good. It's also good for brushing your teeth. Which I think I'm going to start brushing my teeth once a day also with coconut oil. Because it whitens your teeth. And as I said, it's an antibacterial. Actually, there was a guy who fed his pigs vats of coconut oil raw, or naturally pressed or whatever. And instead of fattening them up, they were trying to fatten them up. They got jacked. The pigs got jacked, like they were straight muscle. The coconut oil actually melted their fat away. But there's a lot of good things in coconut oil for your body. I was like, I should probably, and my friend here, she takes a spoon of coconut oil every day. And I was like, oh, I'll start trying it and see how I feel. My teeth feel good though. And I love that. Because I love teeth. I don't know. Try it. Coconut oil every single day. Now, as it goes for the same effects of melting fat on the body, for humans, I don't know. If I notice anything like that, I'll let you know. But ultimately, I just love how it makes my teeth feel squeaky clean, and it's really good for your body. And I'm trying not to burn oil as much as before, because burning oil just, reduces a lot of the nutrient value. And so even olive oil, I try to eat raw, like not, I try not to burn olive oil. I try to just pour it on my food, like after the fact, and eat it. Fesky is your last name. Are you Polish? That's very cool. Fesky. It sounds like it could be Eastern European, the way that it's written and everything. Yeah, but the thing here is, I'm also going to read a little bit of Isaiah after this, and also the great controversy. Why not? Because I got to get some God in here too. But I posted a photo the other day. Some of my friends were like, Kaysha, that was off the wall. Like, it's actually insane. And to be fair, I could have worded it slightly differently. But I was like, in the moment, I was like, and it was dumb. I'm not even gonna lie, it was dumb. In the moment, I was like, I would look so, like, beautiful with like a baby in my tummy, like a pregnancy, like baby, And I said that, and I got like all sorts of DMs and like messages, and I was just like, okay, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm obviously stupid. Like, I was like, that was retarded. Like, if there was ever a retarded thing that I did, that was retarded. And I wasn't even expecting that response, honestly. I should have thought about it more, but I didn't think about it. I was just thinking about, oh my gosh, I would be so cute, pregnant. And anyway, so then I after that, I was like, no. I'm starting to see like a lot of the problems. And now I'm like, okay, well, I can't even. Now I'm like, I don't even really want to post photos. I don't even really want to put like, and I can post a photo that's gonna with like a better caption, like, oh, I hope you guys have a good day. But now I'm just like, I don't even want to post. I don't even want to post photos and have the potential of anybody saying anything. Even if it's more like gentle and more like, I just don't care anymore. Like I just don't want to. I don't want the option of even seeing it. So now I'm like, I just gotta stop posting the pictures. But again, you said half French, half Polish. Very cool. Mówisz po polsku. Or parlez-vous français? Which one? Quien? Is that which one or quel? Quel? Quel d'autre? Which other? What languages do you speak? Um, so I was right. I'm pretty good at guessing that. That's pretty cool. I'm really good with guessing ethnicities. The point here is though, like, if you do usually have guidance, and I a lot of the things I'm really restrained with a lot of my stupidity sometimes because, well, I don't even think there's not even really anything that I want to post that's off the wall. It's not like I'm out here in bikini photos. I don't wear bikinis or anything like that. I really don't care. It's just even things that I would have otherwise not even thought about being a problem. Sometimes my dad's like, no, like that's not that's not going to get the result that you want. And I'm like, oh shoot, my bad. Of course, some things you do think of, and some things that women do very innocently. And I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone, because, like I said, like if you're out there posting bikini photos, you're gonna understand that you're posting bikini photos. Like, but there's a lot of things that you do that women do very subtly because they don't care about things the same way that men do. They don't care about the same things that men do. They, I can't say they don't care about things the same way. They just don't care about the same things that men care about. So a lot of things that they do is it just doesn't matter to them because it's not in their mind. Some things women do they think is very funny. I've seen women do this online where they'll post a video or a picture that they think is hilarious of them and the girls or whatever, and they literally think it's hilarious, and men are in the comments just like thirsty, just dehydrated, like it's the Sahara Desert, and women are sitting there like, what the hell? And I've commented sometimes like that's something that should have stayed in the group chat. And then there's some things that I say that should also just stay in the group chat. Um, because not everything needs to like be out there or whatever like that. But then again, that shows the difference in the way that they think and operate in their standard operating procedure, which is why women, and again, that's something that they do, like, because they're I'm just having fun. I just, again, feel good. This makes me happy. And then it's like, that's why for women, it's so much easier for them to come to this kind of like exchange on social media of like prostitution. And I think that if you've ever been like an actual prostitute or a survivor of trafficking, or you've had any literal trauma or anything, you're gonna see like that the system is literally outlined in the same fashion for you to, like, for women especially, to get where they need to go and do what they, by doing a form of emotional and mental like prostitution on these applications. The way that you have to share yourself, it's like the way that you're constantly sharing yourself and like putting yourself out there and like, sure, whatever, if you like that, by all means. But it's just like, I am actually a very natural, more private person. I hate how much interaction there is online, and like how much like people think that they're obliged to know like things that they really should not or know or whatever. And I share a lot too, but I share things like out of purpose of like application, not just because I'm like, oh, I feel like sharing this with you today because I want to be your friend. It's like, no, I could care less. I don't. Like, I don't. Like, that kind of like openness makes me kind of angry, actually. makes me very angry. And I think for a lot of women, it does. I think that that kind of, women are naturally very reserved, like very naturally. I mean, I'm a substitute teacher and I watch children. And I did early childcare learning as well, uh, from babies all the way to grade 12. And the women, although they're chatty with each other and stuff, like they tend to be a lot more quiet than the boys, or reserved, if you will, reserved. But when it comes to interactions with men and women, men will be having conversations with women and they'll be like, well, what are you doing? And a lot of men, they'll complain that women suck at having conversations. It's because they're reserved. They don't feel emotionally or mentally safe yet, and they don't want to give that. Sorry, excuse me. They don't want to give that yet to somebody, that information, because they don't know if they can trust you. And so they give like short answers like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, nothing much. Okay, well, and what do you really say to that? You know, like there's nothing really you can say to that. The whole time she's like watching a video, she's doing her nails and her hair or something, and she's, maybe also has some music playing in the background or whatever, but she doesn't want to give that vulnerable part of herself because maybe she thinks that you will think poorly of her or judge her, or, she's trying to get close with you, in getting to know you without you feeling that she's a weirdo or something. Girl stuff, whatever. Girls are naturally more reserved. But in social media, it gives women the opportunity to actually share a lot of themselves with people who they don't know, while failing to actually connect with people they do know. So a woman will have a problem in her interpersonal relationships, and then she will go out. Instead of communicating to that person directly, she will go out and communicate it with everyone else online, maybe in an angry tweet, or X now, the X post, or in a blog post, or in a video like this. I don't know. Um, there's whatever, right? Because it's easier then to share with a bunch of people who's going to give you exactly what you need to hear, exactly what you want to hear, when you want to hear it. You'll get the likes, you'll get the comments, you'll get everything that you want, and you don't have to worry about the potential rejection. And then you never have to have accountability for your actions. You never have to face the man in the mirror. You never have to face the conflict in front of you. And you never have to grow in a relationship with the people around you, because you can stay in that constant state of happiness. I didn't get what I want here, so I'm going to go over here. Well, I didn't get what I want here today. You maybe gave it to me yesterday, but not today, so now I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to constantly use the various forms to get what I want. And then women are constantly being passed around in this delusion of reality online, which doesn't give them any level of accountability. And the only way that you would have that accountability is if you're surrounded by like good people that are going to tell you, like Sherry. She told that lady, "You're going to jail." Like, Sherry does not mince words. You're going to jail. Or like if you have a good father, and Sherry's a mentor, so she does that with women. She's very good at it. Or a father like me, who's like, "Hey, that's a little bit out the way there, like you might not want to do that one there, buddy. Like that's going to give you sure problems." And then outline the circumstances as to why, and then then I can apply that very principle going forward in different situations. Or maybe you have friends that care about you that will tell you not to do that. But in large part, it's the Father, God and the Father, that's going to make those substantial differences, with women in these situations. And when you see women online, you see a lot of fatherless behavior because they are out here being handled kind of by men. Because women who put themselves in these situations alone without men guiding them. A man will always guide a woman. It's like it's just a matter of how many, it's about which ones, why, what their motive is. If a woman is not being guided by God, her father, or a future husband, well, God and a father, or God and a future husband, someone else is guiding her in some capacity, especially if she's emotionally driven and oriented that way. And women are emotionally oriented, especially they want to feel good. That is how that is just that is a woman. That is a woman is a woman is a woman. And so an undisciplined one, might I add, an undisciplined one. And so if she doesn't have that guidance of God and a father or God and a husband, because obviously when you get married, the father goes, you know, out of the headship and it becomes the husband, and then someone else will be whoever the men are that are making her feel the best, even though she's using them to feel good. Those men are still getting more out of that exchange with these women than they're even getting, because what the men are giving at these women, whether it's like the gifts or the money or whatever the woman is taking, she doesn't realize she's actually losing more in the exchange, because what she thinks she's giving is not all that she's giving. He's actually creating a circumstance and an environment in which she will be doing what he wants and making her think that she's getting what she wants so that he can continue to get what he wants. And when he's done with it, he's done with it. And imagine if she's doing this with a multitude of men, because maybe she's got a good guy here, or maybe a couple good guys here, I don't know. And they're kind of pissing her off, and so she goes to like the multitude of the others, and those ones are like moving her like a leaf in the wind, or turning her, like my granny said, don't let people ton you like a corn in the pot. And that's really funny. Which is funny because my granny loves cornmeal, and she did make it all the time. And I would just, Granny, did you put the okra in it too? Whenever I came home and I smelled cornmeal and okra, I was angry. If I smelled cornmeal and okra, or pasta, or spaghetti actually, I was angry. My granny loved that. She came to Canada, all she ate was pierogies, Polish and Ukrainian pierogies, or spaghetti, lasagna. We was Garfield. Lasagna, or um, what is that again? Cornmeal and okra. You said your dad is on here. I'll be on my best behavior. I don't know the language at all, just American. Well, that's fine too, my friend. My dad is on X. Yes, my dad is on X, and I mean like the work that we do together on the platform. Because we're whistleblowers and we run the podcast together. This podcast is mine. That's why it's called Real Talk with Kaysha. But he comes on sometimes, like he was on the last stream. I pulled him in to finish up with me, which was pretty cool. Sometimes I do that. But wait. And honestly, this is also why it's important for women to have fathers in their life, because it was Liberty Twitcher, and how could he send a blank message? Like a message, but nothing. Like there's nothing on the screen. Did you just send spacebar, spacebar, spacebar? Anyway, having fathers in your life is particularly important because a woman who has a father in her life, even if she has, these moments of happiness and sadness and, anything in between, like I said, for me, it's like extreme calmness or extreme anger. Like, it's just, like, if I had to get there, it's like, because, like I said, you proved every step of the way that you went through every single other stage. And, you've proved that you've done all the work up until that point, and now this is what needs to happen. So that's how I am. But if you have a father, even if you're extremely angry or extremely calm, your actions and principles are going to be generally very consistent across the board, because he will advise you, like, hey, you need to be reasonable about this. And also, I mean, in the way where, say, if a woman, like I said, she has a couple good guys here, because women online, they be having like 10 billion options. I'm not even gonna lie. It's insane. It's out of this world. I saw a guy, I saw a guy today. He said, "I love the women that slide in my DMs," and it was two women who messaged him, and they said the worst, like, most meanest things to him ever. And I was like, "Is this the reality of men's DMs? Like, this is crazy." Like, it's weird to me because a woman's DM is just just nonsense. But again, if you have a woman that, she has a good father, even if she has, like, say 10 good options, I don't know anyone with that many good options, but we're just using an example. Say she's got like 10 good options, and she has like all these stupid options that she uses as like side pieces, and which women do. I've heard women talk about this. Like, this is insane. I don't even know how they have the mental capacity for this, by the way, or the energy. I'd be calling people each other. Like, I'd be snitching on myself. I'd be calling the people each other's names, and it would be messed up. But anyway, because I wouldn't be able to handle that. Um, I can't. Um, Say they had those options and the side pieces. I don't know. If she had a father, well, first of all, she wouldn't have side pieces if she had a father. So that's the first wrong part of the equation. She wouldn't have those. They would be there, but she would be ignoring them because she's like, that's none of my business. I don't want anything to do with you. Maybe they would send her messages and she's just like ignoring it. It's like, what the hell? That's none of my business. Not my problem. If she had these genuine suitor options, they would have to go through the father for courtship to be with her. They would have to call her father and be like, hey, I'm interested in your daughter, whatever else. Whatever the father, or like meet him if they're like they live close by. I don't know. Whatever they organize, the fact is the father would have to vet that guy and approve of him. And there would be that surety that she was going to act in good faith going forward with that interaction. But most women don't have that, or they don't want to do that with their parents, their father. So then they go online and they're doing all of this out the way stuff by themselves because they want that handbag, they want, that jewelry, they want that expensive restaurant, that trip to that, um, you know, island, or, Bali or whatever, people are obsessed with. And so they'll do those things with all those different people and they think they're getting what they want. But in reality, they're getting the influence of all these people mentally, emotionally, and even intimately, because a lot of times women have to sleep with people. Because men, they like, my family always told me that, like, if a man does something for you, even small, he's going to want to sleep with you. And I watch this behavior. I watch this behavior all the time. And that's why I don't take things from men. Like, I really, like, unless the person, if someone really wants to give me something, I'm like, hey, bruh, sir, talk to my dad, my friend. If you really think I need this and it's good for me, explain to my father why it's good for me, and then I will take it. Because I don't want any confusion, my friend. And some people are good people. Not everyone is going to try to give you a gift because they're trying to sleep with you. That's not the case. It's just the point of, operating through boundaries and respect. A lot of people don't understand boundaries. A lot of people don't know proper boundaries. And they're constantly crossing boundaries and creating the circumstances for a worse situation because they want to feel happy in the moment. They want to feel good. They want to get what they want. They want control. They want power and control, and they don't want to sit in the uncertainty because it's a feminist kind of thing. They must be in the know all the time. They cannot respect somebody's free will to be as they want to be. And that pushes them further into problems going forward in the long run overall. And then when they do come across someone that's nice, that they actually, not nice, genuinely kind guy, genuinely gentle and loving and caring guy, they don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do with it. They just like, they fly off the wall, and they're just weird. Because they've been, and then they think the guy's not doing enough because maybe he's not paying for everything, or he's not, because that's what they're used to, getting all this stuff like as they want, like this from whoever else online. Social media is like the greatest prostitution, like the greatest prostitution, the smartest and the greatest prostitution for women. It's setting things up so that women will prostitute themselves. And they'll enjoy it, and they'll even fight for their ability to do it. The greatest slavery that they say is the one that you believe that you're free. The slavery of your mind. Like, our mentality today is so warped. The dating scene and everything is so warped. Everything's prostitution. And it's so easy to play into. Like I said, I posted the other day. I really didn't mean it like anything messed up. But one of my girlfriends were like, Kaysha, whoa. Honey, are you good, honey? Are you okay? And I said, yeah, girl, what's up? I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that like that. She's like, I know what you were trying to do, but she was like, I know what you were trying to say. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Relax. And now I'm like, now I have to recalibrate the way that I do things again. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't even want the headache. I'm done with it. I'm done with all of it. Because it's so easy to do something like that. I'm like, I should have just sent that picture to my friend, and she could have like laughed about it with me. And I would have had a more like, I would have enjoyed the interaction of what I was actually trying to say. And that's what social media actually does for people as well. When you put something out there, like to me, it was like, ha ha ha, I want babies. Not understanding, I was putting out that there's a problem that needs solving. And in the mind of a lot of men, I guess, they're like, I'll solve that problem. I'm like, this is a non-issue. It's a non-issue, my friend. Trust me, it's a non-issue. But the way that I put it out there, social media makes things in a way where you can put something out because you have a desired result. Like, oh, this is funny. I'm gonna put this out there, and I mean it, but it's funny, and it's an innocent, and then you get the reaction back, and that's supposed to be the interaction, the artificial reaction, which isn't really genuine because the people who interact with it are actually not in favor of what's best for you. They're in favor of what's best for themselves because they want what's going to benefit them in that interaction with you by interacting with you. As opposed to you just saying, you know what? Let me use this as a building moment with a friend. Let me send this to my friend and we can laugh about this together and make a joke and a memory about it. That's actually more normal. We're removing people's ability to actually interact with people on a more personal level and a more vulnerable level, because it takes the vulnerability away when you just post it publicly. And it's just like, now there's no risk. There's no risk of return on investment failing in that interaction. And that's actually very damaging, because then it also makes vulnerability a very twisted exchange for women as well. Anyways, I was reflecting on this quite a lot. I think I'm constantly being reflective because I don't like. I think I always have to fix something. I don't like doing things that I think are messed up, or I don't like doing things that I think that are not productive. So, anyways, I think that's sad. Women, in large part, there's no point to be on social media, man. Like, if you're not doing something that's like, if you're not doing something that actually requires you to be on social media, just get off. Like, I'm telling you right now, if you don't have, if you're a woman that has like, you don't have like even if you have a substantial following, if you're not doing like advocacy or using it for finances, like building a business, like to make money to support you and your family, like doing a ministry or something, I don't know, that you are doing with your family, and your husband doesn't have like, and your whatever, just get rid of it. Or at the very least, your husband should have access. The only way that I would actually probably keep social media in the future is if whoever I get married to, like, he can have full access to like all of my stuff. I don't care. Like, I'm just like, it doesn't matter to me. Because they're like, with women, telling you the way that they operate, the way that women naturally operate, and even the way that men operate, which they're, largely unbeknownst to, because they do not read the actions of men. They need oversight. They need oversight. They need, like, that's what I think. That's just what I think. There's no point in having social media unless you're doing something with your husband or your family. Like, get rid of it. Go focus on the things that you love to do. For me, a lot of people don't know this about me, or maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they do, but I don't know. I really love piano. I actually really love music, instrumentals and things like that. And I grew up playing instruments with my family and in choir and things like that. I'm not saying that I'm like this amazing like singer and like pianist and like instrumentalist and things like that. No, I enjoy those things because they're just, I grew up doing them. I like cooking and baking and gardening. Things I used to do gardening with my granny, and sewing and crocheting and knitting and embroidery and all these very traditional female kind of things. And art. I quite like art. I used to paint quite a bit. But if you are a woman that has, whatever you're good at, maybe you have a farm, maybe you do carpentry, maybe, I don't know what you're good at. Maybe you're a good writer. I enjoy writing too. Maybe you're a good poet. Maybe you're a good chemist. I don't know. Whatever you're good at, go enjoy doing those things as a female and enjoy the soft life of being a female without all of the chaos and destruction that is the internet and the degeneracy. Like, there's nothing good that comes out of my interactions online. And it's not even like I don't even follow weird people online. I don't even follow weird people. I follow a lot of patriots, a lot of conservatives, a lot of Christians. I follow some people that I don't even agree with everything that they say, because I like the work that they're doing. I see that they're disciplined and they're decent individuals, and I actually like that. And they outperform the people who are conservatives and Christians. So I respect that. But there's no benefit, there's no return on investment. I'm not learning anything on social media. Like, I'm not a better person after the end of the day leaving social media. I feel like there's so many things that I have to filter out of my mind. It's like, what's the point? What is the point? And I'm not saying that, like, okay, well, everyone shouldn't have free will to do whatever they want to do. That's not the case. Everyone needs free will. If you want to have social media, you are well within your rights to do that. I'm just saying, think about the return on your investment. Think about, if you really want happiness long term, if happiness is the contender that we are trying to justify, then think about the long term progression of that happiness and how you can fortify or strengthen the same. The answer is probably not social media. The answer is probably filling yourself up, like your cup, filling your cup by doing all the things that you enjoy doing, uh, the things that you think make you better as an individual, things that make your character greater or help you to become the person that you want to be, that you need to be, whatever that looks like. Because I don't know, that's between you, your God, and your family, or whatever you believe, right? I cannot change that. It's just the fact remains the same that you are better in life and your life is more fulfilling, more joyous, or even more happy, if you will, if you are producing the results of things that you actually enjoy. And it would make everything else seem less empty. The world is already a cold and desolate void of a place. And I think that the excessive or even regular indulgence of social media only exacerbates that in reality. Unless you are actively consuming content that is, example, I'm studying mechanical engineering in school. If I was consuming content online that had to do with understanding mechanical engineering, cool. Even still, consuming things that isn't immediately or soon after put into action is kind of like harmful or doesn't really help progression much. Some things can be consumed as entertainment. It's like, yeah, you want to relax, whatever. That's not really the point. It's just you need also actions every day that's going to exert certain energies. And a lot of people, and I'm not talking about like, the spiritual energies that people are talking about, I'm talking about literal physical energy. Like if you have pent up energy in your body, you need to go work out. You need to go like for a run. You need to go and paint something. You need to go play some piano. You need to get that out. A lot of anxiousness that people feel is just the lack of motion that they are not doing. Something like that. Also, um, less social media means more sleep for a lot of people. I went to bed earlier last night. Tell me why I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning. It was actually diabolical. I was like, why did I wake up at 3 a.m.? So I'm going to read. I think you guys kind of get the point of what I'm saying, or how I was trying to like put those things together. thought I heard the dog choking. I don't think so. I think you guys get the point. I think social media for women, social media and boundaries. I think the whole thing is really contributing to like a circular kind of problem on purpose to get the desired result that we're seeing, and the lot of it is prostitution, like in various forms, be it literal prostitution, mental, physical, like emotional. It's all prostitution at this point, and so many lack of boundaries, which is actually perpetuating a whole load of um, failing relationships interpersonally and romantically and platonic, family and otherwise. Like, it's just really sad, and it's a very hopeless thing to see. And I think when you get to the point that you've just hit the wall, kind of, and you're just like, I don't even, I don't even care anymore about any of that. Just at the point where it's just like, whatever, man. If you hit the wall, because, and it's not the hitting the wall, like, the red pill always say, like, oh, when she's 35 or when she's 40, and then she hits the wall, and then nobody wants her, and blah blah. No, I'm talking about hitting the wall of reality, like, of what's going on and why things are structured this way. It's like, oh, like what it's feeding into, and the ROI, and like the lack of it. And then you're kind of like, when you get to that point of like understanding, but then again, a lot of women can't get to that point of understanding. And I think this is a huge importance, where you could almost argue that happiness is a part of the solution. A lot of women cannot get to that understanding until they start engaging in relationships with people, be it friends, romantic, whatever, that are actually serving them back. You need healthy people around you. You need healthy friends relationships, healthy family relationships, healthy romantic relationships. And the opportunity of just experiencing those things will help you come to more realizations every day. Because a lot of women are automated, just like men, except I'm not a man, so I can't speak for them. A lot of women are automated and numb because they're just like, oh, well, I'm just doing things because I can do things, and not negative things. I'm not talking about like I'm just doing negative things because I can do negative things. Like, they're just operating. They're just on standard operating procedure. They're on like autopilot. But when they experience more humanity, they come down a little bit and they're like, oh, wait a minute. This is kind of like, I don't need this. Kind of like, this just doesn't serve me as an individual, and I can do better than this. There's so many different things that like just open up in their mind. And I hate to be a yapper. I hate to be a yapper on my own stream. I hate to be a yapper, but, then it gives them more of an opportunity to be like, oh, well, okay, yeah, it is actually not necessary. Yeah, you're right. This is stupid. This is stupid. I'm not stupid, but this is stupid. And they can kind of like look at different solutions. But if a girl is in a constant state of like trauma or fight or flight or whatever else, like I said, for me, like if the chaos is physical everywhere, my internal like just kind of like shuts down. I can't compartmentalize the same way that my father does. So my internal like structure or organization, the file folders are like all out of whack. It's like if you have like all of like the files that you pull out, and like all the papers are like pouring out, and you can't like, there's like no dividers or like little like colorful things, tabs where you can like, they're just all over the place. When there's too much physical like in real life, like in real time, constant, like random chaos, I'm just like, forget it. Forget it. Like so much parts of my brain just shut down. And that doesn't mean like, and that's not like excuse for like behavior either, because when I do something wrong, I have to accept that I've made a mistake and I have to fix it. I have to accept the consequence of my actions, the mistake, and also fix it. It's just the fact that when you have constant chaos, I'm talking about women who are traumatized, it's easier for them to go through that loop online because there's so much that they're just not thinking about because they're just focused on emotions and feelings almost all the time. Once they get out of an environment like that and they come down a little bit, or they're surrounded with people who actually care about them, and they can focus more on real life, like the real world, like in real life, then they can think a little bit more and be like, oh, well, yeah, you know? And again, it's not to say that you're excused from your behavior. You're still accountable for your own actions. It's just understanding how things happen, the who, what, when, where, why, how. Because in understanding those, then you actually fix them. You avoid them in the future, and you learn to process those things in real time and mitigate them as they happen. Or you try to, at least, you know? So that's interesting to me. So then in that way, because women are emotionally run, and when their batteries are when their batteries are low, their emotional batteries are low, it's like a gas tank. When the gas is out, then the car is not moving. And the women are like that a lot as well emotionally. If the gas is out, then if the emotional batteries are gone, like she's gone, bro. Like if one light bulb on that tree is gone, like the whole tree is like, you might as well say it's a dark Christmas, bro. Like it's just what it is. Like it's gonna be a dark night, a very very dark night. So um, women are like that. So in that way, some level of happiness or joy is necessary for women to progress, but that's also in her ability to do the actions that she needs to get those results when she's around those good people. Because you can't be in chaos all the time and actually succeed in a chaotic environment. Like nobody is. You're not God. You're, like we're human out here, and you can't be at war 24/7. There comes a time where the war needs to end, and when the war ends, you need to create an environment of surety, and you need to have people who will be behind you and support you and care for you. But you're not going to find that majority online. In fact, it's a rare thing probably if you find those people online. Um, maybe now you like. I mean, maybe you might find some good Christians or conservatives online, but in reality, a lot of the people are probably going to be more like people that you can come in contact with in person, and you need that because humans are like they need connection. You need connection, and you need people that you can hug. You know, if you're having a bad day, you need a hug. I read something once that said you need like 8 hugs a day to be healthy. I'm like, well, how? Like, what if you've missed 8 hugs a day for 5 years? how many? How many is it gonna take for me to go like back to normal or whatever normal is? I don't know. Women need they need happiness, I guess, in some capacity, um, for their brain to function optimally. But that happiness is circumstantial. I would say it's joy. I would say they need some sense of joy, and you have joy through a good environment, through your own good actions, your own good efforts, and good relationships, good people. Good people around you is infectious. Good people around you will encourage you to do good things and encourage you to be a better person, like simply for just being with that friend. Just having a good friend just makes you a better person because you're like, wow, you're great. I also want to be great. I want to be better. Well, not because of like just a person, like not in a bad way. It's just good friends encourage each other. Um, wow, what the heck? Gotta text. Honestly, as well, like I do these things, and the more that I do these things, also, I'm like, I get frustrated because when you have like I have a father, but obviously one day I need to be for a second there I was like, oh my goodness, did I actually for a second there, guys, I thought it was muted, and then I would have been so cooked. Even talking about things like this, sometimes I get frustrated talking about like all of these things because I can give the woman's perspective, and that's great. It's very important. It's needed. Men tell me that all the time. They're like, "Wow, I like love what you explain. It makes so much sense. You're speaking my life." Blah blah blah. And I think because of what they've experienced with women, not their mind personally. But I'm like, I am missing a whole side that I need help explain. Like that would make like speaking about this with a man would make what I'm saying like you know it would be like a whole full circle thing, and I get frustrated because I'm like I know there's pieces missing, but I can't fill those pieces. But as I'm explaining, like I know those pieces are missing because I know that like it's not. I don't know, you know. Okay, so I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this quick. We're gonna read 15 of Isaiah. I'm actually going through this chapter so much slower than I went through the other chapters. I felt like I was speeding through it like that. Um, but we'll read the chapter here and then chapter of the conflict of ages. I love that book. I'm sorry. Let me not get on another ramble because this is already almost 2 hours in. Okay. So we're reading from the Remnant Bible, and it says Moab will be punished. Isaiah 15. And it reads, the burden of Moab. I'm surprised you guys can actually even hear me. I just realized this is actually kind of far away. Am I the sound maker guy? How kids used to talk in like high school. Are you the sound maker guy? Are you the fighter guy? Sorry. Sorry. Are you the Joker? Sorry. Kids were so funny. Anyway. Okay. Moab will be punished. Isaiah 15. Okay. The burden of Moab. Because in the night Ar of Moab is laid waste and brought to silence. Because in the night of Kir of Moab is laid waste and brought to silence. Okay? He is gone up to Bajith and to Dibon, the high places, to weep. Moab shall howl. Over Nebo and over Medeba. On all their heads shall be baldness, and every beard cut off. In their streets they shall gird themselves with sackcloth. On the tops of their houses and in their streets every one shall howl, weeping abundantly. And Heshbon shall cry, and Elilah, their voice shall be heard even unto Jahaz. Therefore the armed soldiers of Moab shall cry out. His life shall be grievous unto him. My heart shall cry out for Moab. His fugitives shall flee unto Zoar, and heifer of 3 years old. For by the mounting of Luhith, with weeping shall they go it up. For in the way of Horonaim they shall rise up a cry of destruction. I'm so bad with these names. I'm sorry. For the waters of Nimrim shall be desolate, for the hay is withered away, the grass faileth, there is no green thing. Therefore the abundance they have gotten, and that which they have laid up, shall they carry away to the brook of the willows. My nose is so itchy. I feel like my cousin, like when she was younger, she used to take her hand and go really quick like this, and it would sound like her nose bridge was like breaking. And it's so itchy, like sorry. For the cry is gone round about the borders of Moab, the howling thereof unto Eglaim, and the howling thereof unto Berilim. For the waters of Dimon shall be of blood, for I will bring more upon Dimon, lions upon him that escapeth of Moab, and upon the remnant of the land. Okay, judgment upon Moab. 16. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion. For it shall be, that, as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Arnon is a Bible. Take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday. Hide the outcasts, bewray not him that wandereth. Let mine outcast dwell with thee. Moab, be thou a covert to them from the face of the spoiler. For the extortioner is at an end. The spoiler ceaseth, the oppressor are consumed out of the land. Nature's resources. The plan of life that God gave to Israel was extended as an object lesson for all mankind. If these principles were carried out today, what a different place this world would be. Ministry to Healing 188. There's a little passage called A Nature's Resource. And in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment, and hasting righteousness. The mystery of mercy. There's like a little passage. That's what it's called. This is the mystery of mercy into which angels desire to look, that God can be just while he justifies the repenting sinner and renews his intercourse, association with the fallen race. That Christ could stoop to raise unnumbered multitudes from the abyss of ruin and clothe them with the spotless garments of his own righteousness, to unite with angels who have never fallen, and to dwell forever in the presence of God. Great Controversy, page 415. And why is it mostly this side of my face that's itchy? Like, I feel like this side of my face is normal and this side of my face is like swollen. Or is it this side's actually swollen? I don't know. One of the sides. Every morning I wake up, I'm like chipmunk face. I'm like, why is my face swelling? What did I eat? Or did I eat too late? Like which one is it? Verse 6 of chapter 16 of Isaiah. We have heard of the pride of Moab. He is very proud, even of his haughtiness, and his pride, and his wrath. But his lie shall not be so. Therefore shall Moab howl for Moab. Every one shall howl for the foundations of Kir. Hareseth shall ye mourn. Surely they are stricken. For the fields of Heshbon languish, and the vine of Sibmah. The lords of the heathen have broken down the principal plants thereof. They are come even unto Jazer. They wandered through the wilderness. Her branches are stretched out, they are gone over the sea. Therefore I will bewail with the weeping of Jazer, the vine of Sibmah. I will water thee with my tears, O Heshbon, and Elilah, for the shouting for thy summer fruits, and for thy harvest is fallen, and gladness is taken away, and joy out of the plentiful field. And in the vineyards there shall be no singing, neither shall there be shouting, and the treaders shall tread out no wine in their presses. I have made their vintage shouting to cease. Wherefore my bells shall sound like an harp for Moab, and mine inward parts for Haresh. And it shall come to pass, when it is seen that Moab is weary on the high place, that he shall come to his sanctuary to pray, but he shall not prevail. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning Moab since that time. But now the Lord hath spoken, saying, Within 3 years, as the years of an hireling, and the glory of Moab shall be contemned with all that great multitude, and that remnant shall be very small and feeble. Interesting. Why do I longest and longest and longest and longest? Where you guys could see how disorganized this desk was, you would be disappointed in me. I'm serious. I'm actually very glad you can't see. My granny would be so upset. Kaysha, cleanliness is godliness. Yes, Granny, I know, Granny. Clean your desk. Yes, Granny. I'm going to do it, Granny. Oh. Ah. I am without my pencil again. What have I done with it? God only knows. En serio? Really? C'est la vie. No pencil. Um, I don't know why I didn't think about that. It's alright. I'll find it later. '17 will be next time, and nope. Not me with the self-inflicted chaos. Okay. We are on now Great Controversy, page 40. I can't say enough how much I love this book. It's really good. Okay. Okay, page 40 on the second paragraph. But Rome had fixed her eyes on Britain, and resolved to bring it under her supremacy. In the 6th century, her missionaries undertook the conversion of the heathen Saxons. They were received by favor by the proud barbarians, and they induced many thousands to profess the Romish faith. As the work progressed, the papal leaders and their converts encountered the primitive Christians. A striking contrast was presented. The latter were simple, humble and scriptural in character, doctrine, and manners, while the former manifested the superstition, pomp, and arrogance of popery. The emissary of Rome demanded that these Christian churches acknowledge the supremacy of the sovereign pontiff. The Britons meekly replied that they desired to love all men, but that the Pope was not entitled to supremacy in the Church, and they could render to him only that submission which was due to every follower of Christ. Repeated attempts were made to secure their allegiance to Rome, but these humble Christians, amazed at the pride displayed by her emissaries, steadfastly replied that they knew no other master than Christ. Now the true spirit of the papacy was revealed, said the Romish leader. If you will not receive brethren who bring you peace, you shall receive enemies who will bring you war. If you will not unite with us in showing the Saxons the way of life, you shall receive from them the stroke of death. J. H. Merrily, de Aubin, I think, d'Aubin, Merle, d'Aubin, something like that. History of the Reformation of the 16th century, B17, ch. 2. These were no idle threats. War, intrigue, and deception were employed against these witnesses for a Bible faith, until the churches of Britain were destroyed, or forced to submit to the authority of the Pope. In lands beyond the jurisdiction of Rome, there existed for many centuries a body of Christians who remained almost wholly free from papal corruption. They were surrounded by heathenism, and in the lapse of ages were affected by its errors. but they continued to regard the Bible as the only rule of faith and adhered to many of its truths. These Christians believed in the perpetuity of the law of God and observed the Sabbath of the fourth commandment. Churches that held to this faith and practice existed in Central Africa and among the Armenians of Asia. But of those who resisted the encroachments of the papal power, the Waldenses stood foremost. I haven't heard the name the Waldenses in a hot minute. In the very land where popery had fixed its seat, there its falsehood and corruption were most steadfastly resisted. For centuries the churches of Piedmont maintained their independence, but the time came at last when Rome insisted upon their submission. After ineffectual struggles against her tyranny, the leader of these churches reluctantly acknowledged the supremacy of the power to which the whole world seemed to pay homage. There were some, however, who refused to yield to the authority of pope or prelate. They were determined to maintain their allegiance to God and to preserve the purity and simplicity of their faith. A separation took place. Those who adhered to the ancient faith now withdrew. Some, forsaking the native Alps, raised the banner of truth in foreign lands. Others retreated to the secluded glens and rocky fastness of the mountains, and there preserved their freedom to worship God. The faith which for centuries was held and taught by the Waldensian Christians was in marked contrast to the false doctrines put forth from Rome. Their religious belief was founded upon the written word of God, the true system of Christianity. But those humble peasants, in their obscure retreats, shut away from the world and bound to daily toil among their flocks and their vineyards, had not by themselves arrived at the truth in opposition to the dogmas and heresies of the apostate church. Theirs was not a faith newly received. Their religious belief was their inheritance from their fathers. They contended for the faith of the apostolic church, the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. Jude 3. The church in the wilderness, and not the proud hierarchy enthroned in the world's great capital, was the true church of Christ, the guardian of the treasures of truth which God had committed to his people to be given to the world. Among the leading cause that had led to the separation of the true wait. The faith which was once delivered unto the saints, Jude 3, the church in the wilderness, and not the proud hierarchy enthroned in the world's great capital, was the true church of Christ, the guardian of the treasures of truth which God has committed to his people to be given to the world. Among the leaders' causes that had led to the separation of the true church from Rome was the hatred of the latter toward the Bible's Sabbath. As foretold by prophecy, the papal power cast down the truth to the ground. The law of God was trampled in the dust, while the traditions and customs of men were exalted. The churches that were under the rule of the papacy were early compelled to honor the Sunday as a holy day. Amid the prevailing error and superstition, many, even the true people of God, became so bewildered that while they observed the Sabbath, they refrained from labor also on the Sunday. But this did not satisfy the papal leaders. They demanded not only that Sunday be hallowed, but that the Sabbath be profaned, and they denounced in the strongest language those who dared to show it honor. It was only by fleeing from the power of Rome that any could obey God's law in peace. The Waldenses were among the first of the peoples of Europe to obtain a translation of the Holy Scriptures. Hundreds of years before the Reformation, they possessed the Bible in manuscript in their native tongue. They had the truth unadulterated, and this rendered them the special objects of hatred and persecution. They declared the Church of Rome to be the apostate Babylon of the Apocalypse, and at the peril of their lives they stood up to resist her corruptions. While under the pressure of long continued persecution, some compromised their faith, little by little yielding its distinctive principles. Others held fast the truth. Through ages of darkness and apostasy, there were Waldenses who denied the supremacy of Rome, who rejected image worship as idolatry, and who kept the true Sabbath. Under the fiercest tempests of opposition, they maintained their faith. Though gashed by the spear, and scorched by the Romish faggot, they stood unflinchingly by God's word and his honor, behind the lofty bulwark of the mountains. In all ages, the refuge of the persecuted and oppressed, the Waldenses found a hiding place. Here the light of truth was kept burning amid the darkness of the Middle Ages. Here for 1,000 years, witnesses for the truth maintained the ancient faith. God had provided for his people a sanctuary of awful grandeur befitting the mighty truths committed to their trust. To those faithful exiles, the mountains were an emblem of the immutable righteousness of Jehovah. They pointed their children to the heights towering above them in unchanging majesty, and spoke to them of him with whom there is no variableness nor shadow of turning, whose word is as enduring as the everlasting hills. God had set fast the mountains and girded them with strength. No arm but that of infinite power could move them out of their place. In like manner, he had established his law, the foundation of his government in heaven and upon earth. The arm of man might reach his fellow man and destroy their lives, but that arm could as readily uproot the mountains from their foundations and hurl them into the sea, as it could change one precept of the law of Jehovah, or blot out one of his promises to those who do his will. In their fidelity to his law, God's servants should be as firm as the unchanging hills. The mountains that girded their lowly valleys were a constant witness to God's creative power, and a never-failing assurance of his protecting care. Those pilgrims learned to love the silent symbols of Jehovah's presence. They indulged no ripening because of the hardships of their lot. They were never lonely amid the mountain solitudes. They thanked God that he had provided for them an asylum from the wrath and cruelty of men. They rejoiced in their freedom to worship before him, often when pursued by their enemies. The strength of the hills proved a sure defense. Remember when I was talking earlier about a surety of peace because you create the circumstances, and they said that they were glad for the asylum of the mountains because now it proved to be a sure defense. Like there's a surety that there is peace in what's in the environment that's being created. It's not just coming out of nowhere. It's not just I feel like this is good. It's like, no, there's proof in the pudding, kind of. From many a lofty cliff they chanted the praise of God, and the armies of Rome could not silence their songs of thanksgiving. Pure, simple, and fervent was the piety of these followers of Christ. The principles of truth they valued above houses and lands, friends, kindred, even life itself. These principles they earnestly sought to impress upon the hearts of the young. From earliest childhood, The youth were instructed in the scriptures and taught to regard sacredly the claims of the law of God. Copies of the Bible were rare, therefore its precious words were committed to memory. Many were able to repeat large portions of both the Old and the New Testaments. Thoughts of God were associated alike with sublime scenery of nature and with the humble blessings of daily life. Little children learned to look with gratitude to God as the giver of every favor and every comfort. Parents, tender and affectionate as they were, loved their children too wisely to accustom them to self-indulgence. I was just talking about this the whole time. Before them was a life of trial and hardship, perhaps a martyr's death. They were educated from childhood to endure hardness, to submit to control, and yet to think and act for themselves. Very early they were taught to bear responsibilities, to be guarded in speech, and to understand the wisdom of silence. One indiscreet word let fall in the hearing of their enemies might imperil not only the life of the speaker, but the lives of hundreds of his brethren. For as wolves hunting their prey, did the enemy of truth pursue those who dared to claim freedom of religious faith. It's real what she's saying right now. The rest of the chapter is going to be good. I'll finish this page and I'll be done because the rest of the chapter is low-key longer. But the Waldenses had sacrificed their worldly prosperity for the truth's sake, and with persevering patience they toiled for their bread. Every spot of tillable land among the mountains was carefully improved. The valleys and the less fertile hillside were made to yield their increase. Economy and severe self-denial formed a part of the education which the children received as their only legacy. They were taught that God designs life to be a discipline, and that their wants could be supplied only by personal labor, by forethought, care, and faith. The process was laborious and wearisome, but it was wholesome, just what man needs in his fallen state. The school which God has provided for his training and development, while the youth were inured to toil and hardship, the culture of intellect was not neglected. They were taught that all their powers belonged to God, and that all were to be improved and developed for his service. The various churches in their purity and simplicity resembled the church of apostolic times, rejecting the supremacy of the pope and prelate. They held the Bible as the only supreme, infallible authority. Their pastors, unlike the lordly priests of Rome, followed the example of their master, who came not to be ministered unto, but to minister. They fed the flock of God, leaving them to the green pastures and living fountains of his holy word. Far from monuments of human pomp and pride, the people assembled, not in magnificent churches or grand cathedrals, but beneath the shadow of the mountains, in the alpine valleys, or, in time of danger, in some rocky stronghold, to listen to the words of truth from the servants of Christ. The pastors not only preached the gospel, but they visited the sick, catechized the children. What is that word? C'est quoi ça? What is catech hours? Catechized? It means, catechism. I was wondering, to instruct orally or asking questions, receiving answers, and offering explanation and correction, specifically to instruct on points of Christian doctrine, to question, interrogate, especially in a minute of impertinent manner, examine or try by question, also spelled catechize. Okay, it's fair. Or the itchiness of my nose doesn't make sense. Okay. Yeah, the pastors not only preached. Yeah, the pastors not only preached the gospel, but visited the sick, catechized the children, admonished the erring, and labored to settle disputes and promote harmony and brotherly love. In times of peace, they were sustained by the free will offerings of the people. But, like Paul, the tent maker, each learned some trade or profession by which, if necessary, to provide for his own support. From their pastor, the youth received instruction, while attention was given to branches of general learning. The Bible was made the chief study. The Gospels of Matthew and John were committed to memory, with many of the contained with many of the epistles. They were employed also in copying the scriptures. Some manuscripts contained the whole Bible, others only brief selections, to which some simple explanations of the text were added by those who were able to expound the scriptures. Thus were brought forth the treasures of truth so long concealed by those who sought to exalt themselves above God. Be patient, untiring labor. Be patient, untiring labor, sometimes in the deep, dark caverns of the earth. By the light of torches, the sacred scriptures were written out verse by verse, chapter by chapter. Thus the work went on, the revealed will of God shining out like pure gold, how much brighter, clearer, and more powerful, because of the trials undergone for its sake only those could realize who were engaged in the work. Angels from heaven surrounded these faithful workers. Um, wait. Oh, not my phone literally dying. Okay, I have a few minutes yet, so Satan had urged on the papal priests and prelates. Wait. Okay, Satan had urged upon the papal priests and prelates to bury the word of truth beneath the rubbish of error, heresy, and superstition. But in a most wonderful manner it was preserved uncorrupted through all the ages of darkness. It bore not the stamp of man, but the impress of God. Men have been unwearied in their efforts to obscure the plain, simple meaning of the Scriptures, and to make them contradict their own testimony. But like the ark upon the billowy deep, the word of God outrides the storm that threaten it with destruction. As the mine has rich veins of gold and silver hidden beneath the surface, so that all must dig who would discover its precious stores, so the Holy Scriptures have treasures of truth that are revealed only to the earnest, humble, prayerful seeker. God designed the Bible to be a lesson book to all mankind in childhood, youth, and manhood, and to be studied through all time. He gave his word to men as a revelation of himself. Every new truth discerned is a fresh disclosure of the character of its author. The study of the Scriptures is the means divinely ordained to men to bring men into closer connection with their Creator and to give them a clearer knowledge of His will. It is the medium of communication between God and man. While the Waldenses regarded the fear of the Lord at the beginning of wisdom, they were not blind to the importance of a contract with of a contact with the world, a knowledge of men and an active knowledge of men and of active life, in expanding the mind and quickening the perceptions. From their schools in the mountains, some of the youth were sent to institutions of learning in the cities of France or Italy, where was a more extended field for study, thought, and thought and observation than in their native Alps. The youth thus sent forth were exposed to temptation. They witnessed vice. They encountered Satan's wily agents, who urged upon them the most subtle heresies and most dangerous deceptions. But their education from childhood had been of a character to prepare them for all this. In the schools whither they went, they were not to make confidence of any. Oh my God. Real. Their garments were so prepared as to conceal their greatest treasure, the precious manuscripts of the Scriptures. These, the fruits of the months and years of toil, they carried with them, and whenever they could do so without exciting suspicion, they cautiously placed some portion in the way of those whose hearts seemed open to receive the truth. Real. From their mother's knee, the Waldensian youth had been trained with this purpose in view. They understood their work and faithfully performed it. Converts to the true faith were won in these institutions of learning, and frequently its principles were found to be permeating the entire school, yet the papal leaders could not, by the closest inquiry, trace the so-called corrupting heresy to its source. The Spirit of Christ is a missionary spirit. The very first impulse of the renewed heart is to bring others also to the Savior. Such was the spirit of the Vaudois. Technically, yes, the Vaudois Christians. Such was the spirit of the Vaudois Christians. They felt that God required more of them than merely to preserve the truth in its purity in their own churches, that a solemn responsibility rested upon them to let their light shine forth to those who were in darkness. By the mighty power of God's word, they sought to break the bondage which Rome had imposed. The Vaudois ministers were trained as missionaries, every one who expected to enter the ministry being required first to gain experience as an evangelist. Each was to serve 3 years in some mission field before taking charge of a church at home, this service requiring at the outset self-denial and sacrifice was a fitting introduction to the pastor's life in those times that tried men's souls. The youth who received ordination to the sacred office saw before them not the prospect of earthly wealth and glory, but a life of toil and danger, and possibly a martyr's fate. The missionaries went out 2 and 2, as Jesus sent forth his disciples. With each young man was usually associated a man of age and experience, the youth being under the guise of his companion, who was held responsible for his training, and whose instruction he was required to heed. These collaborators were not always together, but often met for prayer and counsel, thus strengthening each other in the faith. To have made known the object of their mission would have ensured its defeat. Therefore they carefully concealed their real character. Every minister possessed a knowledge of some trade or profession, and the missionaries prosecuted their work under cover of a secular calling. Yeah, see, these people were well versed. They weren't just missionaries. They also had trades, and they were also had intellectual knowledge. They were well versed. Usually they chose that of merchant or peddler. They carried silks, jewelry, and other articles at the time not easily purchasable, save at distant marts, and they were welcomed as merchants were. They would have been spurned as missionaries. They were welcomed as missions where they would have been spurned as missionaries. Wiley B. 1ch7. All the while their hearts were uplifted to God for wisdom to present a treasure more precious than gold or gems. They secretly carried about with them copies of the Bible, in whole or in part, and whenever an opportunity was presented, They called the attention of their customers to these manuscripts. Often an interest to read God's word was thus awakened, and some portion was gladly left with those who desired to receive it. The work of these missionaries began in the plains and valleys at the foot of their own mountains, but it extended far beyond these limits. With naked feet and in garments coarse and travel stained as were those of their master, they passed through great cities and penetrated to distant lands. Everywhere they scattered the precious seed. Churches sprang up in their path, and the blood of martyrs witnessed for truth. The day of God will reveal a rich harvest of souls garnered by the labors of these faithful men, veiled and silent. The word of God was making its way through Christendom and meeting a glad reception in the homes and hearts of men. To the Waldenses, the scriptures were not merely a record of God's dealings with men in the past, and a revelation of the responsibilities and duties of the present, but an unfolding of the perils and glories of the future. I was just saying this at the beginning of the podcast. They believed that the end of all things was not far distant, and as they studied the Bible with prayer and tears, they were the more deeply impressed with its precious utterances and with their duty to make known to others its saving truths. I was saying this. They saw the plan of salvation clearly revealed in the sacred pages, and they found comfort, hope, and peace in believing in Jesus. As the light illuminated their understanding and made glad their hearts, they longed to shed its beams upon those who were in the darkness of papal error. Wow. And that's not the end of the chapter even. Oh, my leg. Oh. Ouch. Oh. Ouch. Oh my gosh. Sweet mother of pearl. That really hurts. You know what? That's what I was saying since this is what I was saying at the beginning. Honestly, okay, no, I need to read the rest of this page. Yeah, I'm going to read the rest of this page. They saw that under the guidance of the Pope and priest, multitudes were vainly endeavoring to obtain pardon by afflicting their bodies for the sin of their souls. Taught to trust their good works to save them, they were ever looking to themselves, their minds dwelling upon their sinful condition, seeing themselves exposed to the wrath of God, afflicting soul and body, yet finding no relief. Thus conscious souls were bound by the doctrines of Rome. Thousands abandoned friends and kindred and spent their lives in convent cells. By oft repeated fasts and cruel scourgings, by midnight vigils, by prostration for weary hours upon the cold, damp stones of their dreary abode, by long pilgrimages, by humiliating penance and fearful torture, thousands vainly sought to obtain peace of conscience. Oppressed with sense of sin and haunted with the fear of God's avenging wrath, many suffered on, until exhausted nature gave way, and without one ray of light or hope they sank into the tomb. The Waldenses longed to break these starving souls the bread of life. Break to these starving souls the bread of life, to open to them the messages of peace in the promises of God, and to point them to Christ as their only hope of salvation. The doctrine that good works can atone for the transgressions of God's law they held to be based upon falsehood. Reliance upon human merit intercepts the view of Christ's infinite love. Jesus died as a sacrifice for man because the fallen race can do nothing to recommend themselves to God. The merits of a crucified and risen Savior are the foundation of Christians' faith. The dependence of the soul upon Christ is as real, and its connection with him must be as close as that of a limb to the body or of a branch to the vine. The teaching of popes and priests had led men to look upon the character of God and even Christ as stern, gloomy, and forbidding. The Savior was represented as so far devoid of sympathy with man in his fallen state that the mediation of priests and saints must be invoked. Those whose mind had been enlightened by the word of God longed to point these souls to Jesus as their compassionate, loving Savior, standing with outstretched arms, inviting all to come to him with their burden of sin, their care and weariness. They longed to clear away the obstructions which Satan had piled up that men might not see the promises and come directly to God, confessing their sins and obtaining pardon and peace. Eagerly did the Vaudois missionary unfold to the inquiring mind the precious truths of the gospel. Cautiously he produced the carefully written portions of the Holy Scriptures. It was his greatest joy to give hope to the conscious, sin-stricken soul who could see only God, a God of vengeance, waiting to execute justice. With quivering lip and tearful eye did he, often on bended knee, open to his brethren the precious promises that revealed the sinner's only hope. Thus the light of truth penetrated many a darkened mind, rolling back the cloud of gloom, until the sun of righteousness shone into the heart with healing in his beams. It was often the case that some portion of Scripture was read again and again, the hearer desiring it to be repeated, as if he would assure himself that he had heard aright. Especially was the repetition of these words eagerly desired. The blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanseth us from all sin. 1 John 1 verse 7. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:14 and 15. I will finish the last bit of these pages another time. My dad has popped into the stream. I think that should do it. I don't know why you're not up on the screen. I can't hear you, man.
I can see myself.
Oh, yeah, I can see you. I can hear you too. So, what I was talking about before you popped in here, I was talking about women. I was talking about women, social media, and boundaries, and how all of that is created for prostitution pretty much, and that pretty much women are like the social media is organized in a way that women will appreciate. Why is it like this? Why do I have to adjust myself just to be in the lens? It's organized right now in a way that women pretty much like social media as a whole, there's no benefit to it. It's all prostitution, whether mental or emotional. They have boatloads of options. They think they have boatloads of options, and if they have like a genuinely good person that they might be invested in, they have all these options that make them feel like they're real options, so that one person might piss them off and they'll go to like their other options to feel good. I made a post the other day of wanting to be like pregnant, and then I had like all these bad responses, obviously, which I didn't think about foolishly. And then I was like, okay, well, I probably shouldn't have done that. And then I got all these responses, and I was like, what the hell? And I'm just like, the way. Do you see where I'm trying to go with this? Do you see where I'm trying to go with this? I've been talking on here for like almost 3 hours, so that's why I'm trying to be like more.
So what ends up happening is the girls that don't get attention, when they get attention, it goes into mega drive over social media. And because the way that we have things structured, it gives it an artificial sort of situation. And most people are coming into social media looking like they don't ever look like normally.
It's all lies, bro.
Because it's like artificial. It's like you roll out of bed and you're just all done up. First of all, it's deception. It
Yeah,
paints a picture of something that really people are not like. And then they get all this attention from guys and so forth that makes them feel good and all this kind of stuff and whatnot. And so it creates an addictive cycle, and then it gives women way more attention than they would normally get. When a woman would never have millions of men coming up and giving her that attention ever. It doesn't happen. So it puts
yeah.
people on a pedestal that they shouldn't be on, right? And men too, but it's easier for women to go off the rails on that because of the way that they're wired to feel good.
That's what I was saying. And because the only way that you can really have the surety that a woman's going to act in good faith when she has all of these options is if you go through the proper courtship process with her father. But if she doesn't have a father, it's not now. And as my page starts to grow more, like I think I will only have like 12 plus 12,000 plus a couple hundred or whatever on like just X and a couple other thousand on the other platforms. It's like as I'm seeing my page grow, I'm seeing how these women, how because you see what I'm saying. As the page, as I'm seeing the page grow and the increased interactions, it's like men who now I know why men who interact with women who have bigger pages, they're like they don't trust them because they know. Like I'm starting to see like, do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, because women that feel they have all these options, they'll just keep going and going and going, and they'll just never find the perfect person. It diminishes their chances substantially, and people don't look at this. They When like it was like that one woman we were looking at who she was working in OnlyFans. She wanted to have a person to do all these things to fill the man's role and some of the women's role, and then still accept her to do what she wanted. And basically, that's not realistic. It isn't. And if you think that you're going to shoulder all of that responsibility onto someone else, it's not going to work, especially if you're looking for somebody to pay them to do that as an assistant at one point, but are looking for somebody in your life to fill that role. That's an extremely demanding thing, and you have to look at the cost. If you want to do this, you're going to have to give up something because if you try to do all of it, you're going to break your back. And I watch a lot of these women doing this, and they're breaking their backs. Men, a lot of them will be like, no, sorry, not going to do that. Right? When you see men breaking their backs to that extent, that's because they're trying to save their families. Then they'll go for broke. But for things, they'll be like, well, we don't need that, so we're not going to do that. Well, that's what they should do. But a lot of these guys that are just like, running on how they feel, they do stupidity too. But it's more prevalent in women than it is in men.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was talking about how we were talking to Sherry today on the stream, and we were talking about happiness, and she was talking about how you need to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with someone else. And I see what she's saying. I mentioned though that I don't really resonate with that per se. Like I don't know if it's just my personality, but also being a Christian because as someone who I said having you don't feel at peace because the war is over. You feel at peace because you've created the circumstances to ensure. that there's no potential that that war will come back because there's no open endings on the board left. You've cut everything off. There's no moves. It's in checkmate. You've created the circumstances that there's no possible in for that kind of that war to come back. Maybe a different war will come, but that one won't. And you can rest at ease knowing that you created that success. You cannot rest at if you rest at ease after a war is over, and it's you have no surety that it's over. That's ignorance is bliss. You're delusional. So in that way, you cannot be happy. You cannot be happy with yourself if you're not producing the results or creating the circumstances for the success in the environment or situation in which that you can progress positively with anyone else, like with someone across from you. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, I don't necessarily feel happy all the time, but I'm content with who I am and what I do and who like what I am. Like I just don't care to feel happy. Like it doesn't make a difference to me. But in the moment, of course, you feel happy. Like when something goes well, maybe you get a good mark on your test. Maybe you get your favorite snack. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that the reason why I mentioned that is because women, especially when the way that social media is organized for women to get those feeling hits, it's also giving them the the idea that gaining happiness and joy is not creating circumstances. Rather, it's just you get it because you deserve it. Like we were talking on the stream earlier, and you were like, "What do you mean you deserve it? What did you do to deserve it?" See what I mean? Can't hear you, man. I can't hear you, man.
They said that's it. A lot of people have these things because they think that they should get something for showing up. That's not the way life works, right? And a lot of people have this delusion thing. Well, I'm not gonna lower my standards. It's like, listen, you're not the prize that you think you are. It's really it. And the things that are, especially in this situation, is that people have to look at things realistically. Where are you at? Where are you going? What do you need to do? A lot of these girls that are on social media are getting attention that they normally wouldn't get attention for. And then they're getting this inflated thing. And they're equating attention as lasting somebody who's going to give you that undying attention. That's not the case.
No,
Because you look at some of these women that have huge platforms and they are not getting the attention that they want. They're not getting that one person that they want, but then you have to understand that when you're doing certain things, you're going to take other things off the board and you have to sit down and say, what is important? Because a lot of people, they live their life and they're single and they don't really understand what they're missing until they get into that situation. No idea. They know that they want something, but they don't understand what it is. And when you unless you get into that position where you can start building that, you'll never know. But when you do get it, you'll realize that all the things that you were doing was just nonsense because you're like, I could have done this earlier. And this is what happens when you begin to see these things.
but what we see is a lot of women online that are traumatized, and this is where I said, because I mentioned, being a survivor of trafficking, also the people who are leaving prostitution. I mean, like a lot of the behavior is the same. I'm not gonna lie, but trauma is trauma. But when you look at these women online that are traumatized, sorry, excuse me, and the thing is set up this way, women actually do need. I said the only way that I would justify the fact that happiness is needed in some fashion for women is because in a when they're traumatized and they're not really feeling much, you need the good people around you, like relationships interpersonally, like a good husband, a good family, a good friends, good coworkers, whatever, good church people that you can interact with that makes you come down to the reality of, well, you're not in the fight or flight or whatever anymore. You're just in a regular everyday life situation where you're having regular relationships with normal people. And then you have the ability, her brain has the ability to come down and be like, you know what? Actually, I don't like this. I don't like that. And I don't like that. This doesn't serve me. This definitely is killing me. and a whole new world of things open up in her mind. And like, social media is, uh, and there's a lot of really traumatized people on social media. I mean, there seems like everybody on there is traumatized. I don't know, and that's just people in general. But it's like social media is creating that environment where instead of them getting to actually connect with those individuals in real life and properly in a more vulnerable.
What? Oh, there she is.
Getting to connect with people in real life in a more vulnerable sense, they are doing it online, and then they're not getting what they actually need to have that joy or the happiness that helps them come down to the realization in their mind, like settle down from the fight or flight to realize, oh, well, actually, I don't like this social media stuff. It's not serving me. I don't like this attention. It's not serving me. Because like the other day when I posted that picture, I was just like, oh, like, I would look beautiful with like a baby in my belly. But when I got the response from it, I was like, that was stupid. That was really stupid. Like, now I have a bunch of stupid responses. And then I was angry and I was like, oh. So, but a lot of women will do like more like out the way things. And if they had more in real life relationships with people that were positive, they would come down a little bit and be like, oh, wait a minute, like, I don't like any of this stuff. Like, and which is why we see a lot of women online when they get married or they get in a serious relationship, they delete everything. They're like, I can't stand this. It's stressing me out. I'm pissed. They just delete it. Can't hear you, man. I can't hear you, man.
Media is designed to give you dopamine hits, and it's designed to be addictive. And so when these women are getting these attention, they're going to be very addictive, and they're going to be like, "Oh, well, fear of missing out, or maybe this one, the next guy will be better.
FOMO.
The grass will be greener on the other side of the fence," and it's like you're just destroying yourself. And more people are doing more damage to themselves on social media. I honestly don't even like social media.
I can't stand it.
I don't,
I
but
can't.
we need for what we're doing. We need to use it. Otherwise, I would be like, don't care.
Sayonara. Yeah, I'd be
Right?
like,
Like
bye. Like,
my I would be happy to just have my family go off living in the woods by a lake. I mean, come in and do this stuff. But obviously, people pissed in our cornflakes, and I was like, all right,
yeah, we have to finish
deal
it.
with I have to deal with it because people are not doing what needs to be done, or that some people are, but not everybody's doing everything else. Go ahead.
But then these women with the boundaries of what you were talking about earlier, how the men, when the women, I didn't remember how you said about the boundaries. Like, we were talking about that.
Traumatized women will never learn to set proper boundaries by themselves. They'll get to a point, but they'll never get to where it needs to be. Because women, because of their emotional nature, they're going to start going into their tendencies are to go into places where they feel good. Women might get angry and upset about this, but every woman that I've seen that doesn't have a man, you can see the way that their boundaries are, right? And women, a lot of the times, will get men that will put men around them that will make them feel good and affirm everything that they do, which is wrong. I'm not going to tell somebody to break up with their destroy their marriage because some people have done there, but they need to have some growth, and the man needs to do some growth as well, and so forth. Because you just need to fix what needs to be fixed. Whatever they say, everybody's different, but everybody needs boundaries. The man is supposed to be the one to set the boundaries. The woman cannot do that. You do that, and it will create bad results all of the time. Some may not be
Yeah,
as bad as others, but everybody's going down in the wrong direction. The men are supposed to be the ones to lead and to set the boundaries because they are the ones who are to be the more rational, logical thinkers, especially under duress. Women do not perform the same way as men do under the
yeah, that's why I mentioned the
most.
chaos. Yeah, because when there's too much outside chaos, like physical chaos, like my brain shuts down. Like, I'm just like, well, this is it. It's just a dumpster fire. Like, this is fine. We're fine, but it's not fine. Um, but you mentioned, um, yeah, because when the women, like, we saw that clip of the lady before who she was in the adult industry, and she said that her and her husband had the open marriage, but you know, she would let him sleep with women, but they weren't allowed to do certain deviant actions with women. I'm
It's
like,
nonsense.
it's I was like, you're too late. Like, you were ready. But this was when women create the boundaries. It's like, obviously she's in that industry, so her boundaries are going to be way more skewed. But for a lot of women, I mean, it's the same type of rationale and reasoning that they're doing when it comes to boundaries.
She like I listened to one woman talk about what because she didn't have a good like she was abused as a child. Her father was not shouldn't be there. It wasn't good. But she said she's like I can't discount the daddy issues and how much it has, but I don't know how much of an impact. And it's like yes, you won't know because you're a woman. You don't know what the father brings. Most women don't understand what the men brings. It's like when I was talking to Sherry. They said the father is designed to pull out the best qualities in both the mother and the children so that they can function better. They're the ones that bind the house together. The mother does the nurturing and so forth internally, but the man uses that visual capability to look. This is why men are much better at reading actions because that's what they were designed to do, to look through it visually. Women do it more verbally. Sure, you have women that are good visually, but they're not. You get the best visual man and the best visual woman. It's not even a contest. Not even close, right? And it's reading the actions men are designed to do what women are not. And this is where women, when they come in to try to do what men do, they perform extremely poorly. Women are extremely good at what they do. It's just not being men. And this is where we're at. And then the women get worn out, they get tired, they overstretch themselves, they're miserable.
Yeah,
And they become aggressive, not assertive.
yeah, they become aggressive. I get like, yeah, I'm not a violent person, but sometimes I just look at my wall. I'm like, I just want to, because some like just the whole thing. It's just like it's too much. It's not what we even really meant to function that way. But um, you mentioned that men consider the way that women break those boundaries as a very disloyal kind of thing. Can you explain that? Because actually, now I'm starting to see as my page is growing with the interactions that I'm getting, why men would see that as a disloyal thing. Before, I was like, why would men even care if like she has a big page? Like, it doesn't mean anything. But now I'll get messages, oh, like I'll fly you out here, or oh, you want to
E-
go out for breakfast or
e-
lunch or whatever, and they don't have fathers, but I do, and I always defer to my father. So I don't, and a lot of those I don't really even answer, but sometimes it's like, okay, well, I just, I always defer to you. So then I don't really actually have to deal with it. But when you think of those other pages of women who are much larger than me, and I'm a fairly small account. I only have a couple thousand or
what
twelve
ends up
thousand.
what ends up happening is that they begin people begin to idolize them, but then they also objectify them. And this is not no one should be in that position to be idolized by people. Right?
Yeah.
This is why when people are like, "Oh, you did it," I'm like, "No, man, it was God. I just listened." Like because like I don't need to put myself on a pedestal. That's a good way to just go straight down to hell. Like, and I'm not feeling to do that. And besides, there's no way I can't even begin to lie and say that this was me. God, get me through this. I should have been dead like more times than I can count. And so, and so, but when you put somebody in that position, they're gonna go like skewed, and things go to their head, and then they feel good, and then a lot of them have attitudes and so forth. And you watch some of these people that you watch on the stream. It's like, oh, I'm internet famous. It's like so, right as they're getting arrested, they're like, you think that's gonna get you out of this? Like, you know what I mean? And they get these things will go to their heads But a lot of these people, they actually bring absolutely no skills to the table, and
Right.
and I'm going to sit down and say this: women should not get paid for their beauty. Honestly, you shouldn't. You shouldn't
Yeah,
be
they
making
shouldn't.
all this money because women, they're like, oh well, I deserve this and that, but they don't realize the cost of doing this. Because when you take this, it's not like there's infinite amount of resources. There's not, because there's only so much work people can do. There's only so much labor that can be done. And when you take away a mass of this for doing nothing, standing in front of a looking pretty is not a bad thing. But I'm saying staying there and taking that time when it could be done something far more productive to society, and using that all of the women doing this as their jobs, and then they're taking away the resources from men. How many children are like not eating properly because of that? Like, I'm serious. People are like wasting their money, their livelihoods on these women, and they're just taking their money, right?
Yeah, some moms will even not do certain things because they're paying for their kids because they're paying for their nails. I'm like, that's crazy.
But I'm saying they're destroying. They're like, well, it's not my problem. Yes, it is, because it's like you're saying. It's like if you're a crack dealer, you're like, well, somebody's gonna sell them crack, so I might as well take the money. That's not the right mentality, right? Look at what, like we were talking about yesterday, Jezebel, and just to make Ahab feel better, she killed a man. Like, plotted his destruction, got people to lie to kill the man so that he can just go to do that to satisfy the guy. Like, no, the king wouldn't even did that himself, because he's like, they could grab me out and stone me. I can't do that. it, because if they put the brakes on this, like for example, like the sex work, if that was unprofitable, women would be getting out of it in droves. They would. You think that women would just go and give that up and spend 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, doing that stuff just because it makes them feel good? No, because you talk to those girls, a lot of them, they're like, it's work. It's tiring. Like, you've got
Some of
to
them
go.
only they can only do it like even Lisa Ann said she could only do it like 5 times a month. She tried to do between 2 and 5, and she said 5 is her soft spot because any more than that, even that was a lot. Any more than that, it was just like it was crazy for her. Five
Yeah,
times a month.
yes, and so a lot of people, they say they might like something soft, but you can't sit down and say that you want to just get abused and I mean, like, and it's not just talking about the sex. You've got to be there. You got to be there like all day doing this over and over again, and like doing like things where you're gonna actually injure yourself by the way you're contorting your body. You're having to put yourself into wrong situations because they want to make it more extreme and whatever else. And people talk about the injuries that they get from twisting themselves and things like that. So if you're going to be in those positions for a long period of time, it's like if you're at work and you have to be bent over for a long period of time in a bad position, it's not good.
You
So who
know,
wants?
if they actually stopped paying women online for being beautiful, women would go back to getting married to men. They would be more realistic about their sexual marketplace value with men. They would go back to being with men because now they would have to get the security of one man. It would incentivize them to be loyal because what social media is doing online right now is incentivizing women to be disloyal by giving them all these options of, okay, well, you can just do this, and all these different men will fly you out all these places, and they will take you out on all these dinner dates. They will do all these, give you money and handbags and all sorts of things. It's incentivizing women to go live a life of disloyalty and singleness because they get more out of it, and they can, if that man pisses them off, they can go to the next one.
I'm gonna just drop this out there as well. Like, the more money a woman makes, the more likely she's gonna be miserable and alone. The reason being is because I'm honestly because a woman wants to go up. More men are not going to
Yeah,
school.
yeah, they
More
don't.
women are getting these jobs. They're getting paid to do these jobs in the higher paying job, or they'll go into only, or do some of them will go into like sex work and make amount of money. Some of them won't. A lot of them won't. But even the ones who are going to school, they're going to make more money, and they're going to want a man that makes more money. Well,
Yeah,
not as many men are going to be making that kind of money because they're not going in to do these things because they're like, this is a waste of my time, right? I'm not going to go and spend 10 years into school to get to get $300,000 in debt. Sure, I might make 200 grand a year, but how long is it going to take me to pay it off? And all these things. They're like, listen, I could go and do this for 10 years, not have the debt, and still have more peace of mind and not have to work
And
like
the
a
same
dog.
money.
Yes, and then women, yeah. So it's like, listen, what do you want? What's important? Because a lot of women prioritize money more than men. And if a man is chasing money, he will choose you over you. Sorry, he'll choose his money over you. You have to understand that. Because if his priority is chasing money, that man will choose his money over you every time.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. Man that values money more than anything. Yeah, he wants the money. He doesn't. You're like you're like a convenience for him. You're not actually like you're not the prize or the value to him. He's just like you're here whenever you're here, and you're here whenever I need you or whatever.
What women think have some kind of idea. Okay, maybe there's those little loser punk men that want to have the women with money. But most men that have any kind of sense, they don't care what the woman makes. They don't care. Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
great, but so what? Like that's not going to make me talk to you or not talk to you, right? Like,
yeah. I've never seen men never ask me like how much money do you make or like what do you even work. Like men barely. Even when men ask me about like my day and things like that, or if I've talked to them about like work in school, they don't even really engage conversation about work and like study. Like men do not care about that stuff at all. They do not care. Like it's propaganda to women to make them think that men care about that.
a lot of stuff in the school they take it's a waste of time anyway, right? Like a lot of degrees should just not even exist. Like
No, it shouldn't. It
when
should
I'm
not.
coming out, you just needed grade 12 to do a lot of stuff. Just be out of high school, right? And so forth. And even some business people, they dropped out of high school and they just went ahead and made money, right? As long as you can learn and figure out how to do something, then do it, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to sit down and say don't learn how to read and write. Everybody needs to do that. That's nonsense. Don't think that you can get away with not doing that. But does every person need to go in and spend 10 years in school? No. But a lot of the stuff that people are going through, they're, you get all that schoolwork, but what's the cost benefit of it, right? Are you going to get a return on investment? And if you're not going to get a return on investment, should you really soak all that money into doing that, right?
Yeah, women, social media, and boundaries. Moral of the story, man. Like, there's no return on investment for women on social media. It teaches you to break boundaries. It teaches you like prostitution, and everything is set up like I said earlier, like OnlyFans structure where it incentivizes women to do more whorish or inconvenient to herself and others behaviors or boundary lacking behaviors for her to get further ahead instead of committing that to a man, like one man, and giving him all of that like time and energy and commitment like to build something together. Women, honestly, most women, they don't have any reason if you're not making money like in a genuine way on social media, which is exceptionally hard. There's no reason for women to be on social media. I think I'm not saying oh like oppression. I'm just saying like realistically, if you look at what's going on in the ROI, there is none.
Well, there's a lot of people that ended up getting like that when they leave out of their thing, they go broke because
That's true.
of that. Look at what happened to Nala. She made this money and now she's like
Yeah.
and so it's not quite the same. You get a certain lifestyle, and you want to go up with that and do these things, and then what happens, right?
So then, what do you think is the solution? Because I spent a lot of time complaining on here about like the social media and the women and like how much I hate it. Like now that I don't want it anymore, kind of like I'm kind of over it. So what do you think the solution is
Well,
for everything?
I think a lot of it is to just uh, make a change in what you're doing. You have to change your behavior. You have to sit down and prioritize what's important. Because if you want a family, having like 10 million followers on social media is not conducive to having a family. It's not. It really isn't because it takes work.
It's a lot
And
of work.
and
I
the
only have
type
12K and it's a lot of work at 12K.
the type of people the type of people like things that you have, I get it. Some women I know that I'm sure if there are women right now that have large followings on social media, if they could find the man that they needed, they would just pack up and leave and be done with it.
Gone like the wind, like the movie.
Right?
Just like,
Because
sayonara. Like, where do I sign? Like, bro, Control Alt Delete.
but the thing is that women have to understand, like, and the men have to start. Men, this is also on you. You have to be afraid to let a woman walk away in order to set the boundaries. If you're not willing to do that because you're afraid that, oh well, you just lose that woman, then you're always gonna be
Yeah,
on the wrong side of the stick. Like, I mean,
men
like,
today don't care if they lose women. They're just like, whatever.
so
Another one to
yes,
come.
yeah, they do. A lot of guys do. Well, yes,
Uh,
they do.
I
Why do
don't
you
know.
think they keep tolerating their nonsense? Like, I mean, women think that I'm joking. That if it comes up to, I'll be like, I'll wait next. I don't even care.
That's what I
Like,
was saying. The real men, like they don't care. They're like,
but there's
I
not
don't need
there's
you right
not that many because I'm not gonna put up with that kind of nonsense, especially when I had a demon for an ex-wife, literally, who tried to just rub us all out, and because of her rage, would resulted in so many people dead. You just, I'm not gonna make that mistake again. Sorry, and I'm not gonna let people create multiple circumstances to put me in this situation because I would be like targeted like crazy. And so I'm like, nope, sorry, not going to do that. Right? It's like, I don't care. You might sit down and say, well, oh, you're not this and that. So don't care. I'm like, I'm a man. Like, I mean, I'm this, look like this because I have to sit down like crazy. I don't get to make my own food because I'm working so much and I just have to pretty much take what it has and I'm sitting all day. I'm saying I get out of this situation. Like I work out 6 days a week still, so still stronger than most of these guys that are sitting down. So it's like I don't care. It won't take me long to get rid of that. So too bad, right? And I said even still, I got a lot to offer. I may not have the money because people are stealing from me to put me in this situation. And I look at all this done deliberately so that I couldn't have that situation, but I didn't even care. Even if I did, doesn't matter. Like I'm like at this point, if you're not dedicated to Jesus, I'm prepared to be alone for the rest of my life. I really don't care
now. Yeah, I'm
because
the
I'm
same
not
way.
going to I'm not going to hell for anybody.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not like that's
So
not a worthy experience for me. Like,
if you're not down with Jesus, then just yeah, we're not gonna go there, right? Like I
it's
had
like
a
I had enough people try to kill me. I don't need to sleep next to another man
yes,
every
because
night.
if they're not going to
Like,
be on board with what you're doing,
they're gonna kill
and
you
they're
regardless.
and they're team Satan,
Yeah.
right? Like that, I can fix her. No,
No,
sorry.
no, you can't. It's one thing if you're like working together with someone to grow. It's a completely different thing if you're like, this woman is an agent of Satan and I just believe that I'm gonna manipulate her into being a better person or I'm gonna change her. It's like, no, you're not, bro. Like, sir, please.
Yeah,
That is not realistic.
and just don't like. I mean, people have to be realistic with themselves and start with yourself, because it's not everybody else's fault, it's yours, and you have to make your changes for yourself. Nobody's obviously you can't control what other people do to you, but you can control your own behavior. That's the only thing you
Yeah.
control.
Well, what I was saying earlier is just the fact that people who are in very fight or flight situations, which a lot are, and like I said, it's not an excuse for behavior. They still have to understand what they did wrong, and they need to understand how to fix it. Because if they don't, they're going to keep repeating. But if you're in a fight or flight situation consistently, you're not going to see things as clearly as if you are in a settled down state. That's just common sense.
Yes.
But when you're around people, like community of people, friends, husband, wife, church family, whatever, that actually care about you, that are actually helping you have normal connections every single day, which is important for your health as a human being, because God made us to be connective. You're going to come down from a lot, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be making a lot more sound decisions. Whereas if you are walking around numb all the time because you're in fight or flight and you don't have the time in your mind to be thinking about normal things. You know what I mean? That's what I think Sherry kind of talked about earlier, like touched on something similar, not in those words. Those are my words, but you know what I mean? Like she was talking about how you kind of have to be in regular relations with people pretty much. You can't be in fight or flight all the time.
No, you have to come back down. Well, I'll say to women, expect that a man that is going to be a good man, he's going to hurt your feelings telling you the truth when it's for your best interest. He's not going to lie to you. A man that's going to tell you everything you want to hear and make you feel good all the time, you need to run. It's like that woman that that went into trafficking. She was traumatized, and then they told her what she wanted to hear. They made her feel good and affirmed her. And listen to one woman that talked about having these issues and everything else like this, and everybody's affirming them and making them feel good. That is not the way things go. Women will do that with each other, and if you have no idea when women do this, especially if with to men and to their children. You cannot do this to men. If you make a man feel good all the time and just push him down that direction, you will raise, like, you're going to cause destruction, because men are not wired to do things just based on the way they feel. Men get their self sense of well being by ensuring that their loved ones are protected and taken care of. That means sometimes as a man, you need to suffer to have peace and contentment. And if you can't deal with the suffering and you're just always wanting to feel good and avoiding pain, you will do the wickedest things. People who want to avoid pain, and not saying that somebody should just go and run into a meat grinder. I'm not saying that. But sometimes it's necessary to go through difficult things. And if you get hurt, so what? You deal with it, you process it, and you go through it. And when that happens, you will continue to grow. But some people are so fearful of being hurt, they create more problems from their fear than the pain itself.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. And uh, someone said, I love the YouTube name K-Logs. It's very creative. Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't even mention that. I don't think. I'm actually changed my YouTube name to K-Logs because I kind of like blogs or vlogs or things like that. Because I'm going to start documenting my healing process and some of the things that I'm doing to heal. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some feelings involved. I don't know. But I can take you guys on that journey with me. And honestly, I hear people tell me all the time that you know, they don't see people with my level of capability after what I've gone through, and people want to know how I do the things that I do. And I'm going to show you guys some of the things that I do, honestly. And if you want to check it out, check it out. You can also, if you want to see the writings that I do, you can go on the Chronicles of My Heart on Substack. Follow me there. But my YouTube channel will probably just be a documentation of that. And I'll probably do most of my social media interactions with people through the vlogs that I make and the writings that I do on Substack and stuff. Because I honestly, I'm going to substantially, I think, cut back on my social media time. I'm just sick of it. Outside of the work I do as well with my dad on the Karis Project, I think I'm just over it. I'm really over it.
If I had my way, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on social media.
Yeah, I would off the whole thing. I would nuke the whole thing because it's just like it's just a it's like there's nothing that I was saying how pretty much I grew up doing a bunch of traditional things like piano, painting, cooking, sewing, embroidery, baking, all sorts of things, reading, writing, whatever, painting, whatever, learning languages. There's a return investment in all those, gardening. What you do on social media, there's literally almost there's like no return on investment on anything that you do in social media. It's just like, okay, you become internet famous, so everyone's in your business all the time. Like
But
you never have privacy. Okay.
when you do these things, then you have to, in order to continue to do what needs to be done. A lot of these people are then towing the line, and they're being told what to do. If they
Yeah,
don't get their
they're just
paychecks. But then
controlled
they'll put
anyway.
people that don't have much skill there because they will do as they're told,
Yep.
right? And then when you're doing that, then what are you? You're a slave
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you want that life, and then once you can't, if you it's harder to go down once you've attained a certain status, and people don't want to lose that, and women are more likely to not want to lose that than men. So men
Yeah,
will be like, kick rocks. I'm just going to deal with this.
yeah. Because the women they're looking at it as like a security and a safety
Yes,
blanket, and they're like, no, I can't lose that. And that's why a lot of women they won't leave social media until they get married because they're like, I can't
yes,
leave my security blanket.
but social media is actually decreasing their chances of
Chances.
having a happy marriage. And this is what people they're like, well, I want it. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like, a lot of people want crack, but it doesn't mean that they should have it, right? Like, I mean, I wanted things that is when I was a kid, and if I had gotten those things, it would have ended up very badly,
Exactly.
right? And so this is where we have to start thinking things through. But I was going to say something here about the social media. Um, Geez, it'll come back up.
About preventing um their ability to be married from social media or using it as a security blanket.
Well, no, but I mean, it's not the best thing in the world. It's designed for addiction. We know that,
Yeah, it is.
and so forth. But I mean, we have to organize and spend time doing things. But I mean, it's designed to enslave people. And then when you can't get out as easily as you got in, and then you know this is the thing with the social media right now, with especially the girls that are into the sex work. As the economy goes down and things are drying up, and now girls are trying to more and more girls are going into this. So in order to compete, they're going to naturally have to become more aggressive. It's like when you go in there and you see all those girls underneath the post just throwing themselves out there, then you have to begin and sit down and say, not how far is this going to go, right? Some girls will try to keep their stuff off as much as they can, and then there's some girls that will just throw it up anywhere because they want to get the engagement, because they're trying to get up into the upper echelons, I guess, of that to make more money. Because I think somebody was saying that almost 99% of them make like a less than $1,000 or less a month. That's not a lot of money.
You could make more than that working at McDonald's. Do you know McDonald's pays between like $17 and $19 an hour? You can make more money at McDonald's than selling your behind on the internet. If you're selling yourself on the internet, you better be making like bank, because
Well,
honestly, like that's. I mean, I'm not saying that it's worth it, but my friend, you can't be out here with 3 likes. You got to pick a struggle.
but I mean, like eventually there's gonna be competition, because those people that you're dealing with, they're also going to start having younger girls coming to them, and other girls that are willing to do all these other things, like the competition. Women are shameless when it comes to competing. Like, I mean, they'll like women will naturally do things that men will not, because men are looking more at the long term consequences, even when they're doing things. This is why when like Naboth walked away, even though he wanted to have his vineyard, Jezebel just straight up plotted to murder him, lied, and just murdered him, right? And got people and she took his stuff and acted like it was him, so that they would go out and do this. Like,
Yeah, she.
and Ahab was the ultimate simp. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, he was.
And that's what happens when weak men let women run the situation. That's what happens. You cannot do that.
Nope.
Because if Ahab put his foot down and said not today, it wouldn't have happened. But he was prostituting his daughter, so I mean,
Sick.
yes.
So, in reality, then the solution is, in short, on both ends, for the male and female end, for all the chaos that's going on in with the social media and the boundaries and women and things like that. The ultimate solutions, in short, is what? Before we close,
I mean, you got to cut it, like cut it back. You can't go out and do all these things. Find other ways to get income that are productive. Men, you have the biggest aspect in this. Stop giving the women the attention
the
on
money.
that kind. Yes, the money. Look at what happened when they defunded that,
You say
because no, when they with like when they did all that woke stuff with the um with Budweiser and all those places. Take your dollars. If you
they were
want women
finished.
that are going to do this, they're going to have to. You have to create the circumstances for change, right? All of these guys that are going out and spending ridiculous amounts of money. I just watched a girl on TikTok. She came there, and this is what you have to sit down and think. You don't know who you're getting. This guy spent like, I don't know, like $600 for 10 minutes on cam with her or something like that, and then said, "Come to my house. I'll give you $2,600." And so he could do something, open the door, do something while his wife was upstairs sleeping. So she came and was there for 10 minutes and left, and then she called her back and called her back, contact messaged her back, and said that he'll give her more money to come outside in the courtyard while the wife is there. And he's like, if we're quiet, we'll be good. She's like, well, I was thinking of coming back and then making enough noise that his wife would get up and know, right?
That's insanity.
Yeah. Then this next man, he goes, gets this girl. He's married, but he goes and his wife is away. He goes in there, sees this woman. I don't know what happened in the next over the next couple of weeks, but wife comes, he divorces the wife, goes and marries the girl that he goes to see. Oh yes. And the next thing you know, she's getting trying get set up because he's getting people checking him for drugs and stuff like this. And then finally they found this, but then the guy's like, no, this isn't me. So then end up happening. She was like, oh, well, to protect you, just sign the house over. She's pregnant, whatever. And then when they find out, they arrest somebody. Like, she's like, oh, somebody came in and tried to kill him. And then she's like coming and all crying and everything. She went to the gym and they brought her in and then brought her husband in and said, no, you dropped the act, because she went to go and hire a hitman. So, and the hitman went to the person he went to talk to get a hitman, went and talked to the police. And then what she thought was the hitman came in there and she was talking about how she was trying to kill her husband and everything else like that. And she got 20 years in jail. Right. And he's like, okay, you know what? Just give me the house and we'll just, forget about the charges, get out of my face. And she's like, no, it's my house and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, and she's like, well, I didn't try to kill you. Just gaslighting him. Was like, it's on the video. I saw it too, but it was like, you watch that, so you don't know what you're getting. Right. And there was a
That's
girl,
there was a
yeah,
girl. What?
there's a girl in Canada that was just robbing guys left, right, and center, and like violently had somebody to come in. They'd come in and just set up on the guy in a vulnerable situation while he's trying to get his jollies, and then he gets robbed violently with other accomplices. Right, so you're taking a risk.
R.I.P. Man. Honestly, it's crazy out in these streets. That's why I said earlier, you're gonna know if someone goes through the process, the proper traditional courtship process with their father, that you can trust that they're gonna act in good faith, because even if another guy wanted to come along, he would have to go through the father anyways. And the father's not gonna do their father's not gonna be like, oh, I talked to this one guy, but let me talk to these other 10 suitors to see if they're options. Like that father's not gonna do that. Like that's messed up. So it's like you got this is also why traditional courtship and going through things the traditional way is a surety. It's like it's based on honor, integrity, and respect versus just going out here off all of these feelings and the addictiveness of addictive tendencies of like social media in general or whatever. But yeah, get rid of it, go away with it. Anyways, you guys get the point. Let's close. Why don't you
Yeah, I
press a
just
prayer
sit down
before
and say this is why I have respect for people that leave, because people that leave generally have a very strong distaste for what they did before.
people that what leave?
Yes, that were
Oh
involved in that, and they leave because you have to do wicked things. Like, I mean, don't I knew a lot of women that were involved in this stuff when I was young, and they did a lot of wicked things. Well, obviously, the guys involved did a lot of wicked things, but I mean, this is what they call it game for a reason, right? Because you win some, you lose some, and a lot of people cheat.
that's what I'm saying. The cheating is crazy. Cheating in
Hmm.
games and cheating in like actual like it's insanity.
Yeah,
I can't. I'm too afraid of
E-
consequences. I'm not even gonna lie.
yeah. It's like the players may change, but the game does
Game
not.
stays the same. Yeah.
All right, we'll close here. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. Open our hearts and minds to your will and help people that they would come together to rebuild families, that the men would stand up and humble themselves before God, and that the women would follow the lead of the men, and that they would rebuild the families, the churches, the communities, and the nation, that they would have some respite from this wicked evilness that we're seeing in this world, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks guys for the prayer as always. Thank you guys for joining me for this super long stream. It's been like 3 hours and 30 minutes, and it is late here where I am tired. I'm going to bed. But yeah, as I said earlier, I'm not going to be on social media as much. God willing, I will be free of that abominable, you know, thing. But I will record like my healing process and the different various things that I do to help me heal, or that I have done over the years, that have allowed me to be as capable and resilient as I am physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Just being able to continue with that strength and fortitude and courage. I want to share that with you guys so that you can also utilize the skills and things that I've implemented, so that you can help yourself be as wonderful as you're meant to be as well. Um, if you want to support me, go over to my YouTube channel, Klogs, K hyphen logs, because I guess I'm logging vlogs and blogs or whatever. Um, and also, if you want to support the writing that I do, I dropped one today, kind of, a short one, just briefly discussing what we talked about today, kind of as well. Um, at the Chronicles of My Heart on Substack. And yeah, you can follow me on other social medias, but I'm really, I'm really gonna start popping off of there. I'm just sliding back, fading into the back. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, thanks, guys, for your time and considerations today. That has been Women, Social Media, and Boundaries. And if you have any ideas that you want me to talk about, because I will be continuing these podcasts as well, just like, the streams and stuff like that, because that's just basic. Shoot me a message or comment or whatever, and let me know what you want me to discuss next or something, and I'll consider it. I won't tell you that I'll actually do it, because I decide for myself, but I'll consider it. All right, thank you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.